This is the Friday Breeders' Cup preview show. I'm recording this one early Wednesday morning. Hope everyone's having a nice week. And the focus for us this week on That's What G Said podcast is going to be Breeders' Cup. Breeders' Cup Friday, Breeders' Cup Saturday. Tons of interviews lined up for you. I'll go through the Friday undercard races 1 through 5 myself. I'll kind of speed through them. Then we will have an interview with Mott from Stable Duel, Director of Marketing there. Then we jump into the Breeders' Cup races for Friday. We're going to talk Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint with Brian Arrigoni from Canterbury. We're going to talk Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf with Sean Alvarez. We're going to talk Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies with Ryan Dickey. We're going to talk Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf with Andy Villanueva and the Breeders' Cup Juvenile with Barry Spears. We'll even give you a recap of episode 1, season 2 of The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. We'll talk about what happened, and we will be going through spoilers and everything. So if you haven't watched The Mandalorian yet, make sure you want to mute the very end. I'll save that part for the very end, The Mandalorian Recap. Lots to get into, and we'll jump right into the Friday undercard. Before we do, gotta talk about OldSmokeClothing.com and that promo code GINO, which gets you free shipping on your order. Holiday season coming up. Some of your friends out there, family members, loved ones, heck, maybe you just want to get yourself a little gift to put under the tree come holiday time. OldSmokeClothing.com, horse racing t-shirts, hats, hoodies, zip-ups, all sorts of different horse racing memorabilia. You can get custom designs. You can join the clubhouse there. We're actually going to have an interview coming up with one of the co-founders of Old Smoke on tomorrow's show. Really looking forward to that. You can hear a lot more about this company and why, if you're a horse racing fan, you really should be checking out OldSmokeClothing.com. That promo code GINO gets you free shipping on your order. So let's talk Friday undercard on the Breeders' Cup Friday at Keeneland card. So we're going to get into race number 1 right away. And you can play an early pick 5 in the opener there. A couple horses that I'll be looking to use in the exotics. One more time, we are talking Friday Keeneland Breeders' Cup undercard, November the 6th, race number 1. This is the Nyquist. I think the 4-up striker at anything over 3-1 makes a lot of sense in here. I do think he will get bet down, and so if you're playing some sort of early pick 5s, I'm okay with singling him or maybe just using a couple in here. In his most recent start, where he took a shot against a Grade 1 company in the Breeders' Futurity, he broke on top on the inside. He actually had the lead early and was just going 1 mile and a 16th. He got pressed by the eventual winner that day, Essential Quality, who's going to be a major player in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. His race is better than it looks on paper. He was still second early in the stretch before fading, and now you get that great turn back in distance from 1 mile and a 16th to 6.5 furlongs here. I think that'll have him stalking a little off the pace. It looks like Quick Tempo will be forwardly paced. That one's pretty quick. The 9 to the outside. Also, Safa's Day has some speed. I'd imagine those two will be showing the way. Roderick is also very quick. Even Sir Wellington and Upstriker may not be as quick as them, and turning back from a 1 mile and a 16th race, I'm hoping he's sitting just off the pace. The one highly motivated, I think makes a lot of sense in here too. I'd prefer him a lot more if he were drawn towards the outside, but he was able to tuck in 3rd, 4th in the 2-path. He was in between horses when he broke his maiden. He was 3 off. He got shuffled to the inside. He waited. He split horses late, and he pulled away. And that might be a type of trip that he gets here today. So, highly motivated will be on my tickets in the early pick 5, but I'll have Upstriker on top to get things started. 3 horses I'll be looking to include in some of the exotics in race number 2. The 4, Thinking. In her debut, she tried the turf, and she was behind a horse named Royal Approval who came out of that race to win, and we'll see running in the Breeders' Cup. Thinking then raced on October the 17th, going 7 furlongs on the dirt at Keeneland, and she had a good start. She took back off the leading group. She sat 4th, about 3 deep. She was a couple lengths off, and she was always traveling really well. I liked that she showed speed. She was able to take back, kind of push button. She won at 7 furlongs. She's one of a few horses in here that prove she can pass horses. It looks like Lady Edith has some speed. Off We Go has some speed. Rock's Princess has some speed. Mona Stella, not quite as quick. Joy's Rocket has some speed. Novel Squall has some speed. The 10 Music City Star has some speed. Kayla's Turn has some speed. I mean, there could be a lot of combinations of horses going to the lead in here. California Lily, another one. I'm looking for the horses who I've seen pass others, and that can come from off the pace. So I'll start with the 4 Thinking. I will also go to the 9 The Grass is Blue, whose debut race was at Monmouth, was against Maiden Claimers, and then came back in the Chad Brown barn. Settled towards the back, was last after the first quarter, about 8 lengths off, moved inside and angled around with a big, wide, sweeping move and just ran right on by. It was very impressive for the Grass is Blue. Far-sighted, had a brutal start from out wide, was parked 4 wide for about half mile, then 3 deep, and just destroyed a group without really being asked after being parked wide. That was the 11 Far-sighted. So I'll use 4, 11, and 9 in race number 2. Those will be the 3 in exotics. And then in race number 3, no strong opinion at all. This is just a spread out race for me. There are a lot of horses in here I actually think should run well on the grass that haven't been on it a lot, or I like them on the grass. Enforceable, No Wood, Tyshawn. This is just a total spread out race. Pixelate, Fancy Liquor, Spanish Kingdom would all be in the mix for me, and probably Fighting CB also. I do think there's a good amount of speed, so I'll use more horses that I think will be kind of sitting or coming from off the pace, but absolute spread out race for me in the 3rd. Really no strong opinion. In the 4th race, it's not even as much that I love the 4 Into Chocolate. I just think she's going to run really well, and I'm not all that high on most of the rest of the field. The 2 Amy's Challenge makes sense. I think she's the quickest. She's drawn down towards the inside. She should be able to get towards the rail, clear the field if she breaks alertly. If not, the horse right next to her, Headland, has enough speed to sort of push her, and that could put Into Chocolate into a really nice spot. So I'll use the 4. We'll use the 2 Amy's Challenge. I'd be okay with singling the 4 Into Chocolate and some pick 5s, but 2-4 here. And then as we move to the 1 5/8 Grade 2 Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance, the 8 is a horse who I thought about singling, and I might on one ticket. Rise the Guy. He going long like this, he should be able to either get the lead or sit really, really close. And I've always been a fan of him. He's always shown some ability. He's a little bit quirky. They're trying to figure out what he really wants to do best. And he's, probably the most logical winner in this spot. And I wouldn't mind singling him because it won't be like an overwhelming favorite. The other couple horses I would look at in here, the 5 Tenfold, and then the 7 Signalman, who's at least heading in the right direction. I don't know if Signalman wants to go this far. Tenfold comes out of some of the better races, and he has shown that he can run and run all day. He's just not very consistent, and I wouldn't want to take too short of a price on him. Those would be the 3 for me in race number 5. The 5, 7, and 8, I'd have it pegged 8, 7, 5. So I'd look at a pick 4, sort of, it would be like 1, 4, 4, 9, 11, or pick 5, starting in race number 1. On Friday, it would be 1, 4 with 4, 9, 11, spread out as many as you can there, then 2, 4, and 5, 7, 8, and I'd be okay singling the 8 in the 5th if you wanted to shorten up there. In the 4th race, I would be fine with, taking a more bold single with Into Chocolate, or even in the opener, I'd be okay with taking a single on Upstriker. We all have different budgets that we can play with, so don't be afraid to single your strong opinions if we kind of lock up on a horse that you like, that I like, and maybe I have a different reason or two than you. Maybe that'll hopefully be where we can connect. So we're going to talk about the Breeders' Cup races now for Friday in just a bit, and I'm going to go race by race. We have interviews with a different guest to talk about every single Breeders' Cup race, and then following that interview, I'll give a quick overview again of some of my thoughts on the race. But before we get to that, we are going to have an interview with Bree Mott from Stable Duel. She's going to let us know everything that's going on at Stable Duel and what to expect this week with contests on the schedule, what to look forward to at the end of 2020 and heading into 2021. So we'll be talking with Bree Mott from Stable Duel in just a sec. Middle of Breeders' Cup week as we get set for Friday and Saturday. So it's a huge week in the world of horse racing, and one of the big companies that have been sweeping the nation in horse racing. Actually, I guess more than the nation, right, Bree? Because we're up at Woodbine. More than the nation with Stable Duel. Joining me again, my good friend, the hype chick, the director of marketing for Stable Duel. No days off, Bree Mott. How you doing, Bree?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Doing well. So I saw that you did post earlier, though, sort of a bummer that there won't be any Breeders' Cup contest this year, but there will still be a ton of other contests for everybody to play this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're probably more bummed than anybody that not to carry Breeders' Cup, but we're working on it for next year, and we've got some great contests this week, and then we're going to hit it hard all November and December and heading into 2021. So, no days off, I guess, as the new slogan is.
So let's recently, the one thing that I've always loved about Stable Duel and talking with you from the very beginning was you are all looking to grow, to adapt, to cater to whatever the customers and the players want. And we've seen that now in the last 2 or 3 months. I mean, there have been so many different contest formats, from winner take all to paying out the top 3 to paying out the top 10 to new double ups to try to beat a specific person where you'll get a bonus. So even some contests that were just normal contests, like at Emerald, where Lone Star was another one where the top finishers would get extra swag. So that really feels to me, as someone who talks to you a lot more than these interviews and stuff, that feels like really what you guys at Stable Duel want to do. You want to make your customers and your players happy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've always said, it's for the players, by the players. Us ourselves, we're gamblers here. And we're just sometimes it's trying something new to see how it goes. The double ups and the triple ups, I think so far we have gotten some amazing feedback on. Kind of the premise behind it actually comes from the daily fantasy world a little bit. So those are contests that happen a lot in that world. So we decided to try it out, and it's just a way to kind of build your bankroll. So for instance, they usually happen, towards the middle of the week so that you can double, triple your money and then head into the weekend with more bankroll to play in some of the bigger games. So I had somebody ask, how they work. Pretty much whatever your entry is, if it's a double up, if you finish within the top 40% of the Stable Duel players within that game, you're going to double your entry. So if it's a $10 buy-in, you're walking away with $20. No, it's not a massive win, but that's why a lot of people play multiple stables. So you play 3 stables, and if those 3 finish in the top 40%, you're walking away with an extra $30, which, I mean, really is pretty good odds compared to some of the other things that we've got out there to lose money on. And same with triple up, you're tripling your entry. So we call it a bankroll builder, just a way to double or triple your money. And again, more players walk away with cash in their pockets than some of the other games. Yeah, go ahead.
What's great about those is all it does is it unlocks that different strategy in how you have to play the game, because you can play a double up or a triple up game and have a little bit more of a conservative approach. You don't really have to feel like you are going to take a swing on when you're playing in a tournament. Right. If you're trying to play to win, you're going to have to zig when everybody zags once or twice. You're going to have to pick 1 or 2 big bust out long shots, but you can play it a little safer if you're just trying to double or triple up and not necessarily worry about, okay, everyone's going to play this horse, I don't want to play them too. So what's great is that different contests, completely different strategy.
Yeah, for sure. And, and we actually received feedback last week. An individual hated the double up and the triple up. And that's why we try to offer this rounded portfolio of different contest concepts, because, I mean, you can't please everybody with one one avenue. So that's why we offer multiple avenues. And we've got the top 10s, which are super fun. So obviously heavier payouts for the top 10 players. And then we have kind of what we call like our standard normal contest, which pays out the top 20%. So there's lots of ways to win within the Stable Duel app. And it really just kind of whatever tickles your fancy. And if you want to play it safe and just double your money, the double ups, the triple ups are kind of a good place for you to go. Enter multiple stables. We've seen one player enter, I think, 4 of the same stable, which sometimes it pays out for him and sometimes it doesn't. But there's also, you talk about stable building strategy all the time. Like sometimes you're in between 2 horses and you can't afford both. So create 2 stables where you buy the one in one stable and then buy the other one in the other one. So lots of different options. But we're always listening to feedback on social media, through our email, and, we really appreciate it, whether it's love or hate. It drives us to better our product on a daily basis.
One thing that I know you've mentioned a couple times is we have this annual leaderboard that we see when we pull the app up right away, and it tells you basically everything you need to know about all of the past contests you've been in, where you finished, everything. You can get all the information there. And you guys have talked a few times about at some point having some sort of a contest with the top 100 or a certain level of players. So talk a little bit about an idea there and what the annual leaderboard is.
Sure. Well, as you know, we didn't launch this year until July 3rd. So our calendar year, no matter what, is going to be, January 1st to December 31st. So it's starting out July 3rd when we launched, and it will end December 31st. So you have this time period to play as much as you can, and any positive points that you get from a game. So if you have a game that you kind of flunk and you end up with negative, which it happens, it's happened to many of us, that won't be added to your overall score. You only get the positive points added. But so you see those players that have 56,000 points on the annual leaderboard. It's because they've played that many games that keeps adding to their overall status and their reward system, which we'll touch on too, to move you up on the annual leaderboard. And so at the end of the year, we're going to pretty much scratch those reward points, and the top 100 players on the Stable Duel annual leaderboard will be invited to play in an exclusive top 10 championship for one big race day. I'm not going to say which race, but we're thinking it's going to be in January, and it's going to be exciting, and it'll be a big dollar to win, and it's only invited to the top 100 players. So you want to get in that group. Yep.
I love it. And I think that's what G said is in the low 30s right now. So I gotta continue to move up, but I'm gonna doing well so far. And then I know that there have been really good relationships with a lot of the tracks that you've had moving forward. There are some big ones like Del Mar opening back up now. Last week there were free roll contests at Del Mar. You mentioned there was a triple up contest. They've been a good partner with you moving forward. I know I'm just kind of looking at the calendar in my head and the wheels are spinning. I know Gulfstream has been a track that there were a lot of Stable Duel contests with, and Gulfstream coming up like around the after Christmas time through March is like one of the best meets of racing ever, every part of the year.
Yes, we are super excited for Gulfstream this winter. That track in itself, I've always loved. It just has this fun Miami. It almost has like a casino type vibe, which if we all follow me on social media, we know I like a good casino. So, super excited for Gulfstream. There's just something about that track there. And even if you can't go, you feel like you're there in the Florida sun watching the horses run. And a lot of the good horses are down there because, the New York circuit changes a little bit with Aqueduct being so cold. A lot of the horses head south. And then, we've got Del Mar. We're kind of working on hopefully this just fun initiative with Del Mar, and same with Gulfstream. The tracks have been great thus far, and we just hope to kind of build those relationships because, our players are fans of racing, we're fans of racing, and to give back to the players and build Stable Duel just builds the racing industry in general. So it's super fun.
Let's continue on with the rewards. We kind of hit on that a moment ago. So like anything, you're already going to be offering rewards to those players who are in the top 100 by giving them an opportunity to play in this exclusive contest. But it goes much more than that. I see pictures of people with swag all over the place, posting their T-shirts, their hats. their koozies, all sorts of different things. Explain the rewards program to us.
Yeah, so this is one of the things that we kind of designed early on, and we thought that it was really important of just being a brand that like everyone feels a part of the company, and the reward system kind of does that. So you hit your first reward status at 12,500 points, which seems like a lot if you first start playing, but if you're hitting, 200 points or even 100 points, it's only going to take you 12 games to get there. Did I do that math right? We'll see. Maybe. So, you just want to, the more you play, the more you win. That's one of our slogans, and it's so true. Like, you don't have to win a game to move up to get to a reward status.
Or to get money.
Or to get money
in all the payouts. I mean, like I said, I had gone like a month or two and not won, and had still made a ton of profit. Very rarely was I depositing second, thirds, fourth, fifths, finishing well. Like, that's the thing that's nice too, is that you don't have to always feel like you win. You're going to get rewarded.
Yeah, and in all transparency, I mean, again, we launched in July. Like, this is a great time to get in because the player numbers are lower than what they could be next year. So you have more of a chance, more of a chance to win. So, yeah, I mean, you're winning money, and the rewards, like, everybody likes a status. We always talk about, airline status. You like to have some sort of a status because you get perks, and it's the same thing with Stable Duel. So you hit 12,500 points, you're going to get an email that says, congratulations, you reached silver status. And we're sending you a credit so that you can play a game on our dime, and we're going to send you a Stable Duel t-shirt. And it just goes up from there. The next level gold, you pick from the swag store, you get more of a game credit, and so on and so forth. And we actually have 2 platinum players right now that have been fantastic. And we're working with them because at that level, we're hoping to, host people at racetracks and give tickets. Obviously, in this time period, that's a little bit tougher where most of the tracks are, having no spectators. But again, we love our players. We're here to take care of you, and the game is for you. So we're going to take care of our 2 platinum players, and so on and so forth. So yeah, the more you play, the more you win. Any of those positive points, even if you did not win in your particular game, will be added to your annual status, move you up on the annual leaderboard, and get you free perks.
Love it. And I gotta mention one of the real popular sellers of the shirts that you have, which are funny, they're great, is the Degenerate shirt. People love this one. I get asked about it all the time, all over the place. Tell us a little bit about some of the swag and what we can shop there for Stable Duel.
Sure. Well, we ourselves sit here and joke every single day in the office. Like, I have a basketball hoop in my office. We've got a shuffleboard table downstairs. Like, we're just laid back. We love the sport, and we love the fun side of it. We don't, want to be stuffing anyways. And so when we kind of thought about carrying t-shirts, like, we just wanted them to be different, funny, like, witty. And so, yeah, the Degenerate's one of them, which you can't really do much more than write Degenerate in massive, bold letters. And that's all it is. And it's one of the favorites. I have a couple going out today. And the tees are super comfortable. Like, they're not these, cheap ones that you buy. They're actually ones that you want to wear on a daily basis. But yeah, so we've got that. We've got a Stay in Your Lane, which kind of came out after the Derby, where Maximum Security had a moment. Yep. So that one's good. And then actually our very first t-shirt, which this day was so funny. I kind of wish some people in the office for it. Obviously our game is based off of, margin of victory. So length is what matters. And so we were talking about our game. And so we kind of came up with the size doesn't matter, but lengths do. Then we were trying to think of like how to write it on a shirt. And I put my hands up and we put the horse in between, and the rest is history. So yeah, it's all in good fun. And, it's been so great to see players tweet it out, share pictures. We've got a couple that it is their avatar on Twitter. And we're just so thankful that people feel a part of the Stable Duel family because, we feel like you're all a part of our family. So yeah, wear the shirts. We got them. They're for sale, but we also do plenty of giveaways too. $18, I think, is most of the t-shirts. Oh, and then we actually just have the comfiest sweatshirt I legitimately have ever worn.
The thing's brand new, right? It's really new, the hoodie.
Yeah, brand new. Put it out there last week. And that's only $40. And I guess now I'm being a salesperson. But this part's really cool. So the blue hats, Gino, you've seen those. They're the fitted hats.
I've got one.
Okay. So We had somebody the other day ask us, like, it would be so cool if you could, put your stable name on there.
Oh,
And
wow.
this has been something that we have thought about doing, but, we're a very small team here. And so we already bite off more than we can chew. But, once he said it, I was like, we got to make this happen. And so surprised him. He had bought the hat, surprised him, put his stable name on the side of it. Just to be the first one to try it out.
Wow.
And sent it to him. And his response was, he goes, "This means more to me than you'll ever know. This was my dad's old racing stable name."
See, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's just something.
Their stable name put on the hat. It's $10. I will do it. You just gotta hit me up on all the channels, like Twitter, whatever. But yeah, you can totally put your stable name on those blue hats.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I think for me, the one, like, I've wear the degenerate one a good amount, but I've had the size doesn't matter one the longest. And so I get the look. It's one that I get looks at when I'm walking around. People will do the double take and then really like look at it. I've had people ask me, I think when we did a live stream a few weeks ago, one of the angles of the camera was set up so you could only see where it says size doesn't matter on my shirt. And I was having to explain, you can ask Stephanie. I promise this is not true. Talk to my girlfriend, so it's a lot of fun.
You gotta own it. You just gotta give them like a creepy like eyebrow raise with like two thumbs up.
Yeah. Especially when I have this creepy ass beard going on still, which is just about to get cut because the Dodgers won. So I've got this, like, you can't even see my face. It just looks like I'm already a hairy guy I'm Italian, with my eyebrows and my dark features. You throw a beard on my face, you cannot see anything. So I'm walking around with either the degenerate or the size doesn't matter shirt on and giving people creepy looks. They're gonna run. They're gonna run.
You fit the part then, I feel like.
So Bree, with Breeders' Cup week coming up, the very important question to ask you: what are going to be some of the drinks on your menu for the next few days? I know that you take no days off.
I know.
When it comes to hey, you know what? Sometimes we need to be a warrior, and for me, I'm the same way. I will fluctuate from wine to whiskey to beer. I don't really discriminate with the drinks. It doesn't bother me. If there's some alcohol, I will have it. Give me one or two that you're going to be drinking this week.
See, whiskey is like my angry drink. Like I do not need to be on whiskey for the safety of anyone around me. Yeah. I've got it. It's clear liquor. I actually have been converted to like a good old fashioned. So for bourbon drinkers out there, I'll go down that path, relax. And for the record, just so people don't start calling a hotline for me, I did take Sunday off this time. Okay, so I had no drinks on Sunday.
God needed rest on Sunday.
Yes. I mean, you got to prep for this week. So
exactly.
Yeah, I'm a wine drinker for sure. But when it's like you got to rally through hours, they are definitely sort of like the vodka style type drinks where you got ice, so that's hydration the way I look at it. With wine, there's no hydration mixed in. But no, I will, we're just excited. We're excited for the weekend. I think we're going to test out Mirror Twin, which is across the street from our office here in Lexington, and Austin Brewery. So there will be beer involved. We'll probably kick off some fun cocktails over the weekend as well.
Bree, you guys have been all over the place. You've been traveling all over. It seems like it's. I'm just a little bummed that everything's going on because I can't wait till one time where we're able to all meet up together. I can't wait till we have I'm able to hang out with you and Chris in the group and have a few beers because it's been a lot of fun. And the one thing that I've just appreciated as more than anything, a customer of your product too, someone who plays Stable Duel all the time, is how accessible you personally and your whole team are and you have been to me and to I think everyone else. And I try to tell everyone too, if you're listening and you're not sure what Stable Duel is and you've just heard us talk about it and you have some questions, you can always ask me. But I've seen Bree get back to everybody out there on all social media stuff. You are like, I know you got a bunch of other stuff to do, but you take your time to get back to everyone individually. Even if some of them are snarky to you, you'll still give them a response, which I really appreciate. And like that's the companies that I like working with. And those are places that I want to continue to support because you're never going to BS me. I know that. And as a customer,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate that. And so anyone that's listening, you can always ask me. I'll help you, tell you everything that's going on with Stable Duel, build your lineups. But Bree can let you know everything. And you are like so great at that. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, I mean, listen, we love the product. We stand behind it 150%. And we're just like, I know this sounds so cliche, but on a daily basis, we really are working very hard to just make it bigger and better for players. And so part of that is, being responsive. And I mean, we launched, and you remember this, we kind of launched marketing before we ever had a product. So I'm literally on Twitter like, hey, Stable Duel, like, we don't have anything yet, but come hang out with me. And the people that did, like, it just was super fun because we were talking about, what horses we were going to pick, what tracks we were looking at. It just kind of started to build this community that we had hoped to build, but we could have never imagined for it to grow as quickly into what it is now. But yeah, I mean, I take it very seriously to answer any questions, to be there if you have any issues. Like, I want you to enjoy the product. All of our team wants you to enjoy the product. So we just make it a point to be there and to help with anything that needs. And yeah, I mean, if there are snarky comments, like, snarky is the best side of me. So you're going to get it back. It's cool.
Yeah, just be expecting it. If you give it out, you're going to get it back for sure. And I mean, with a company that's really as small, just as far as not many people that are, doing all the stuff behind the scenes, the amount of response and how quickly you are able to get back to everybody with all the different, all the different things that you guys are dealing with is super impressive. Because I mean, there are huge companies that are terrible with customer service, and that is, to me, no matter what, that is the complete opposite that I've experienced from day one with all of you. And that's why I'm very happy. Makes it easy for me to promote Stable Duel. I don't have to lie about anything. I don't have to tell people that are listening to my show one thing and it's the other way. It's literally what I say is what happens, because that's how honest you guys have been from day one. And I just look forward to moving forward this week. We're going to have a contest. Again, like, let's talk a little bit about this week. You mentioned, we mentioned Del Mar. So what are I think I saw just like an hour or two ago, usually on Monday, if you follow on social media, Stable Duel will tweet out or post on Facebook the schedule for the week to come. So this show will probably come out Wednesday. Let's roll through like what comes out Wednesday through the rest of the week.
Yeah, so Wednesday we've got Parks. We're doing a triple up there. So it's a $10 buy-in. So you can walk away with $30 in your pocket for any entry as long as you finish, again, on the top 40% of the leaderboard there. But as we talked about changing up some games, we're actually giving a $100 bonus to the first place. So in that one, You're tripling up. But if you win the game, you're also walking away with $100. So that's cool. Pretty cool. And then, we just started with Penn National last week. Those games have been super, super fun. So we've got more Penn National top 10. We're going down to Louisiana for Evangeline Downs. So trying out some kind of a new venue, if you will. And then we're kind of continuing on. We got Woodbine, we got Golden Gate, and then we're kicking off Del Mar on Friday and Saturday and Sunday. So again, no Breeders' Cup this year. We are hopeful that we're going to have it next year, but obviously we're fans of racing, so we're still going to be watching. But there's a ton of fun action in the app. And if anything, I mean, it's a great weekend to kind of make some money, because some people might be focused on the Breeders' Cup and missing out on the money that could be in their pockets from Stable Duel.
Absolutely. Perfect time to capitalize. Make sure you pay attention to the numbers in those contests too. Sometimes, like anything, it's just there'll be one contest, like if there's two contests at the same track, sometimes, the smaller ones fill up like crazy, and then the bigger ones sometimes don't, because people just don't. Maybe they get nervous or they want to enter a couple smaller stables. But if you just entered the same stable in the bigger contest, you'd win a lot of the time.
It's so true. How many tweets I have seen out there where it was like, if I would have entered this stable in the high dollar, I would have gotten second place, or I would have, because you can look at the points of what happened, in the one that you entered, the $5 entry stable, and then you could have been in the top 10 of the $25 paying you 5 times that. So
you can see how many stables are in right away when you enter. It tells you how many entries are in each contest too. So you can look around. Oh, okay. You know what? There's a few in this one. Maybe it makes a little more sense to spend up, because I'll just have less people to compete with in that one, So the one thing I'll always mention too, just remember, because something I do, I build my stables a lot of time the night before. But you remember, you got to get up and check for scratches. You guys do a really good job of sending out the alerts. So just make sure to turn those notifications on for the Stable Duel app. Because for me, every morning, I'll get them. It'll say, 30 minutes before, make sure you get your entries in. You have 2 horses scratched in your stable, and it just makes my job so easy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, turn your notifications on. We try to make it easy so that you can go back in. And I mean, if you want it to be, it's a set it and forget it and then walk back afterwards and see what you did. But honestly, it's so fun to me to sit there and like upload after every single race and see where you're moving up and down the leaderboard. So yeah, it's going to be a good week. I'm excited. I mean, a ton of really good racing, but I think the interaction that we have found with some of the Penn National, the Parks, the Golden Gates, those games have been super fun in themselves. So
Bree Mott, the director of marketing for Stable Duel. Make sure to download that Stable Duel app anywhere on your Android, iOS devices, anywhere at all. There were new Android updates recently, so for your Android fans, it's even moving quicker and more smooth. Bree, and let everybody else know out there on social media and stuff, where can we find you? Where can we get in touch with you?
You can find me at Bree Mott on Twitter. More importantly, Stable Duel is everywhere as Stable Duel. There's no spaces or anything, guys. It's pretty simple, at Stable Duel. Yeah, follow along. A ton of giveaways. Sometimes I can be funny, but Stable Duel is the place to be.
And Stable Duel is the place where you're going to find That's What G Said each and every week in those contests. Play, race, win. Bree, thank you so much again, and enjoy your drinks this week.
Thank you. You too.
That is Bree Mott. Don't go anywhere, folks. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back here with plenty more on That's What G Said. Hey, big thank you to Bree for letting us know everything happening in the world of Stable Duel. And as we shift on over now to start talking about the Breeders' Cup races for Friday, one at a time, with a different guest to help discuss each one. First up, it's going to be race number 6 on Friday, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. Joining us to discuss this one is Brian Arrigoni, on-track handicapper over at Canterbury. Enjoy our discussion of race number 6. Okay, we got the off-hitter this year for our Breeders' Cup races, and we're going to be talking the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Sprint, someone that I've gotten much closer with over the last year. Had him on this show many times to talk about Canterbury. He's the on-track handicapper over at Canterbury, and one of the few people after I had put together a list, I'm talking about Brian Arrigoni. So Brian, I put together the list of all the people I wanted. I was thinking about, asking to join me on the Breeders' Cup show, and I had it all marked down. And I just sort of assigned races to people, kind of like alphabetically almost, because I was putting them, and you were sort of towards the top. And after the race drew, you were one of the few people that I felt like sending an apology afterwards, because this is just from a handicapping standpoint, a field of 14, so many variables. But wow, talk about a difficult race when we have 2-year-olds sprinting 5.5 furlongs. You got some European horses coming in, a massive field, the heavy favorites on the outside. We got a race to discuss. Brian Arrigoni, how you doing, buddy?
As much as I appreciate always being on the show, I sure felt like having an A last name that I drew the short straw with a field of 17 2-year-olds going 5.5 furlongs. Yeah, as a public handicapper, this race seems like a nightmare.
Oh yeah. And I guess from a discussion standpoint, we will start with Golden Pal, who is the morning line favorite, but drew post 14, and he's really quick. So if I guess if you had to be either drawn way to the inside or drawn way to the outside, maybe you'd prefer the outside, but he is going to have to break alertly. He's going to have to not be messing around out there. He did just crush a group over at Saratoga that he was just much better than. And 2 starts back, he just got beat by a really, really nice animal over at Ascot. That's top notch there. So where do we start? I guess we start with Golden Pal. What are your thoughts on him?
I think the race goes through Golden Pal. I'm not positive that a win wager or the value will certainly be there. 8 to 5 on the morning line. We'll see how the money plays out. But a 2-year-old from post number 14 is a deserving favorite in my opinion, but I'm not all that confident. I think the race will be won on the lead or just off the pace in here, but it looks like he's got to contend with some other speed. I respect everything he did. but 1 minute flat and 4 at Saratoga hasn't been seen since August. I've got my question marks, but I absolutely understand why he's the favorite. And I'm sure the connections prefer being on the outside versus down on the inside.
I think I feel pretty similar to you. He's not a favorite. There are shorter price favorites over the weekend that I'll be completely chucking. He's not one of them. He'll be in the mix in my exotics along with a couple other horses. So who are some of the other horses that you would kind of look to as top horses for you in this race?
Well, anytime I hear 2-year-olds sprinting on the turf, I'm going to spread out. So while I recognize Golden Pal, certainly the one to beat, but let's not forget, that horse was a maiden going into last race. Granted, was bet down to 2-5, but now you're going to bet, on a horse that's only won once, where many of them have. I understand that they're lightly raced, but there's plenty of horses that I look at underneath that could absolutely provide value. I think Second of July is a horse who's right next door. Dylan Davis is not synonymous with winning at the Breeders' Cup, but that horse has been overlooked plenty of times. Went off at 68-1 in the debut at Belmont, and then I thought in the Grade 3 Futurity at Belmont was really much the best. The running line only says won by a half length, but I went back and watched that race, which I believe 6 or 7 of these horses come out of. And Second of July was really geared down, had to shuffle back a little bit in the replay, sit behind a wall of horses. And I thought won professionally. I think that horse is going to be an overlay at 8-1. There's plenty of others to take a look at as well. Who did you see?
And you know what? And I wanted to piggyback on your point because you talked about Davis. I thought he put a great ride on this horse last time out too. He was just kind of patient. He was acting like he was riding very confident and just kind of waiting. He angled out 4 wide. He got a nice opening. It was just a really well-timed ride. You mentioned sort of geared down afterwards too, beat a couple rivals. Plenty of things to like about Second of July in here. One horse that I think is one that I'll be using also in some of my exotics is probably a horse that came out of the same race that was right behind him in After 5, who I also think ran pretty well. So I like that race in particular. Those two will be on some of my my exotics. Like what do we do with a horse like Cow? Okay, let's talk about the Canterbury horse. We got the Canterbury guy on here. We got to talk a little bit about Bodenheimer, who broke his maiden at Canterbury, and then he came right back at Prairie Meadows and won nicely. And last time out, he wired a stakes field at Keeneland. He's loaded with talent, very quick, tons of ability. The problem with him is that he's got sort of the same running style as Golden Pal and probably 3 or 4 others in here. He would have to be really, really good to win the battle and then win the war.
Yeah, and I will say this, being a Canterbury horse, what a special thing it is for Valerie Lund to get another horse to the Breeders' Cup. You do note this, a 2-year-old who was bred in Washington by Attaboy Roy. The sire was trained by Valerie Lund. That was her horse that she brought to the Breeders' Cup in the past, and Attaboy Roy means a ton to her. He's also the sire of one of Minnesota's finest, and nationally they may not know the name, but Mr. Jägermeister. He's performed pretty well at Oaklawn Park. He's dominated the Minnesota ranks here at Canterbury. He's made almost $1 million, and she also trains him. And she was so high on Bodenheimer that she said this is the best horse she's ever trained, and that includes Attaboy Roy, along with Mr. Jägermeister. She's been very high on Bodenheimer the entire time. He ran with Lasix in the debut at Canterbury, and that was probably his best race. I know he just came back and won, the Indian Summer at Keeneland as well, but I like his running style. He's awfully quick. He's going to sit on, if not near the lead. Will Golden Pal go or sit just off of it? But I think Bodenheimer could absolutely catch a price or catch a piece at a price for connections that people may overlook.
One horse that I'm going to be using, and again, she is a filly. She'll be facing some of the boys in here, and I don't know how good she is, but she's going to be sitting in the spot that you've mentioned a few times, where I don't want a horse who's going to be dead last in here and have to deal with a lot of traffic, and I don't necessarily want the couple that I think are going to be right on the lead. I'm talking about the 12 Dirty Dangle, who is now going to come into the Mark Casse barn. So he comes into a real capable barn. She comes into a real capable barn after winning a stakes race last time out, and she's just got that style where she's tactical. She can track, just a couple lengths off. She's drawn towards the outside. Maybe she gets hooked a little bit wide, but I think with that positional speed, she'll be able to secure a spot. In a field like this, I don't mind if she's sitting, I'd prefer her sitting third or fourth, too deep than a horse that's going to be coming from way back, kind of stuck in between in some traffic. So she's a long shot that I'll be throwing on my ticket in some of my exotics. Are there any other? We got 4 big prices down towards the inside. I couldn't really get too excited about any of them. I had some question marks about Cowan. Any others in here for as far as your exotics are concerned that you would be looking to use?
Well, I've got a couple more horses to talk about, but
please,
going back
absolutely.
To Dirty Dangle, I'm glad you brought up Dirty Dangle because I went back and watched that replay from September 19th, and I was very impressed with 20-1 morning line. One relatively push button, and if you watch the replay as well, sitting at the top of the stretch, you were wondering where she was going to go. I mean, I was like, how does she win this race and win it going away by open lengths? Because she was behind a wall of horses. The one thing I don't know, and tell me if this does concern you, will be running without Lasix for the Breeders' Cup and is one of the only horses that has been on Lasix the first 2 starts.
Well, it's something to mention, right? Because being in Canada, versus being in the U.S., we've seen a lot of the tracks with the 2-year-olds now. So that's a point to mention. What I don't mind is that she's a price, right? I think if she was a shorter price, I would use it as something to maybe not play her, or maybe a reason to be hold it against her a little bit more, since I think she's going to be 15, everything around 15-1 or so. I don't mind if there are a few things like that, but a very good point for you to bring up. And I kind of, my notes were really similar to yours in that I don't know how good she is, or this is going to be a tough task for anyone to win a race like this, but there's definitely some ability there.
Absolutely. And you and I think we handicap similar, where we handicap what we see on paper, and then we handicap what we see with our eyes with replays.
Absolutely.
Medication is a hot button topic across the nation. And I'll admit, I don't know how that is going to handle, whether it's going to be a help or hurt.
I agree.
It may not affect it at all. So that's just something that I wanted to make note of.
And I'm glad you did. Yeah. Great thing to mention.
I think Golden Pal, is going to be the heavily bet favorite. I agree. Bodenheimer, Dirty Dangle, and 2nd of July are horses that I will be using underneath. And I'll throw in one last one. And typically in my handicapping, when I'm handicapping horses coming from the West Coast and the East Coast and how they intermingle and they mesh, it's relatively simple for me. On the West Coast, I prefer turf horses. Horses coming from the East Coast, I prefer them on the dirt, because oftentimes I feel like there's just a little bit more competition on the East Coast for those turf horses than there is on the West Coast.
Agree.
But I will throw this one in, is Amanzi Yimpillo is potentially going to take some money in here. Another filly running against the boys for CJ Thoroughbreds, who I love. But that was not the horse I wanted to bring up. I thought Windy City Red for Jonathan Wong was much more impressive at a big price than Amanzi Yimpillo, or however you want to say the name. But Windy City Red was only trying the turf for the first time, is not really bred to handle the turf at all. Valdivia can really give you a good ride. If there is a horse coming from the West Coast out at Santa Anita, I'm going to be throwing Windy City Red underneath. Will not use the winner out of the Speakeasy last time out. I think Windy City Red at a price could be a horse to use underneath. I'm not saying on top by any means, but in your trifectas, superfectas, showed speed in the debut at Golden Gate, and then really had a disastrous trip at Santa Anita, and I thought deserved much better. Lastly, this is a race in the sprints. I'm not going to use the Euros. Americans have really dominated the sprints recently. The Euros will have much better opportunities later on in the card, and on Saturday, going a little bit longer.
I just feel like this spot, the Euros get a little bit outrun. They're just not quite used to the kind of early pace in these sprint races that the American racing or the North American racing has. And a lot of the horses, if they've been close, they're not going to be close to this kind of speed, and they're going to get outrun. So I'm completely with you, and I'm really glad you mentioned Windy City Red too. I'm glad he drew in, because I feel very similar. I'll probably throw him into, 1 or 2 pick 5 tickets that I play, just because if he won, I would feel upset that I didn't have him, because he's a little, I don't want to say cheap, but he doesn't feel like he's as classy as some of the other horses in this race. He is a really nice animal, and I thought he was the best in that race. A slightly better trip wins. I'm glad you mentioned it. He just had a bad trip. He was 3-4 deep, and then he kind of settled. He was outrun a little bit in that second, but then he ran. He moved inside. He had a ton of traffic late. Just a better trip wins that race. Windy City Red, a no doubt horse to use underneath at a big price in exotics. You have an excellent turf jockey who has won some really big grass races through the years and who should be able to secure a nice spot for Windy City Red. And he showed a little versatility in his 2 starts too. Even though he had a bad trip, he showed us he can overcome a little bit of adversity and pass some horses.
Absolutely. And so even though, long story short, I don't love horses from the East Coast or on the turf, I typically do love them, but the grade 3 Futurity I didn't rate as a super great race, so I'm only going to use one out of there with 2nd of July. I'll certainly use Golden Pal. Dirty Dangle is a filly that I'm going to absolutely use. Tyler Gaffleone and Mark Cassidy, that's a horse that could win, and everyone was saying, how did I miss it? Bodenheimer in with a shot, the local favorite here in Minnesota. And then, in my opinion, you have to use Windy City Red. You touched on it. He broke from the outside, moved down to the inside, and kind of really had to wait. I thought it was relatively professional in running that race, and then galloped out huge. It was a big gallop. I was way ahead of everyone else after there. I thought deserved a better fate and will absolutely be all of 30-1. So those are the horses that I'm going to use, really 2, 10, and then the outside runners on 12, 13, and 14. And I really don't think, outside of Golden Pal, anyone's really hurt by their post draw because Windy City Red is going to sit back behind anyways. So I'm fine with all the post positions.
Yeah, I agree with you. We see this race very similarly in that I think Golden Pal is a use, but beatable in this spot and not one that you'd want to toss because you could see a situation where this horse either sits just off or can clear the field and is just better than this group. But with the other speed signed on, with a lot of these variables, with these young, lightly raced horses who are improving rapidly, I think there are many opportunities in a Breeders' Cup race like this to say, okay, we're okay with Golden Pal and a couple others. There are favorites later on in the card and between Friday and Saturday that I think are vulnerable. I'll try to beat them. This one we'll use along with a couple others. Brian, let everybody out there know Canterbury is finished Duel-like, and then let us know where we can follow you along on social media.
Just working the desk job and trying to find some horses along the way while working from home. But you can find me on Twitter, Mr. B _CBY analyst. I'll be trying to tweet out as much as I can during the Breeders' Cup, and I love it. I try and focus on pick 4s, pick 5s, and a win bet. And I think it's humorous, I'll put it politely, that this 14-horse, 2-year-olds going 5.5 furlongs on the turf kicks off the pick 5.
Right? The first Breeders' Cup race we get, the start of the pick 5, where everybody just wants to stay alive and get through to the next race. We're going to have to worry about a huge field with all these X factors. Brian Arrigoni, it doesn't matter if it's Canterbury, it doesn't matter if it's Breeders' Cup racing, Belmont Park, where I've seen you have some really nice scores, or on the New York circuit. Hell of a handicapper, very nice guy. Thank you for joining me again, and I look forward to, I'll have to bring you back on a couple more times between now and Canterbury, just talk other races like we did today, because I always love getting your opinion.
Absolutely. Best of luck, and certainly appreciate all the work you put in to Breeders' Cup and all the guests you're having on.
Man, thank you, and thank you for being so flexible with your time. I know we got young ones now, so it's not always easy to coordinate with the youngins running around. So best to you and yours over there. You guys stay safe, and you have a great week.
You as well.
Folks, do not go anywhere. We have plenty more for Breeders' Cup Friday. We'll be moving on to race number 7. Hey, big thank you to Brian for talking Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. Not an easy race to discuss and to analyze horse by horse, especially at a full field like that. We said 2-year-olds sprinting on the turf course. For me, the horses that I'm very interested in using, the 12 in here, talked all about a Dirty Dangle. Make sure to include this one in your exotics. The 9 for me, going to be after 5. I will be using Golden Pal. Also, the 13, 2nd of July, and after that one, Cowan and Windy City Red would be the next tier, the deepers and the under horses, depending on how deep you're going in some of the exotics. But for me, the 12 horse, if I can get anything over 10-1, 12-1, I think I would be putting a few bucks a win wager on Dirty Dangle in the first Breeders' Cup race on Friday. We move from race number 6 Friday to race number 7 on Friday, and we will be discussing the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf with Sean Alvarez. Enjoy the discussion of race number 7. I had to press record because if I didn't, Sean and I would have been talking for just 2 hours. We were talking baseball. We were going through gambling stories as we get set up to talk about race number 7 on Friday at Keeneland for the Breeders' Cup. We're talking about the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. And they'll be traveling 1 mile, so get those past performances out. November the 6th, joining me again here on That's What G Said, becoming a very frequent guest, good buddy, one that we were saying can't wait till things sort of ease up a little bit and we can go hang out and have a beer at a track again. I know this man is having a good time though. Currently in Las Vegas, handicapper, contest player. You see his written work all over the place. Sean Alvarez, how you doing, buddy?
Chino, I'm fantastic. I mean, just like you said, we've been talking for 12 minutes just about absolutely everything that we love, and baseball and horse racing and sports, and just happy to be on here and chatting with you. Like you said, really looking forward to finally getting together and hanging out and watching some horse racing or sports, and in general, just looking forward for this to be over and back to a little bit of a sense of normalcy.
Let's make some money this weekend, and you're in the place to make money. You're hanging out over in Vegas right now. Let's talk about race number 7. So a difficult race to discuss, Sean. I mean, honestly, when you look at all of the races on both days, this might be, we hear wide open or great betting race. This really fits that because the morning line favorite in this race is 5-1.
Yeah, I mean, when you had messaged me and told me what race to handicap and go over, I felt like there was like a personal vendetta out for me. Felt like you picked the most difficult race of all day.
It's a hard one, man.
Like you said, we have got the 6, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name. That's the other thing is I feel like every time you have me on the show, I want to talk about a horse that I can't even pronounce. So.
Okay, I had a little bit of a cutout there. It was my fault. Sean, I've only done, like thousands of hours of these recordings. Sometimes when you lean over into the microphone and pull the cord out, that would be better to not do when you're doing an interview.
Slight technical difficulty.
Yeah.
Slight.
Yeah, but host blame. Yeah, host blame. We're in the middle of early talking about the 7th race Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, and we were talking about Mustabeek as just kind of a starting point, but so many ways to go with all of these European horses that are very live. And I mean, you can make cases up and down the field. I'm interested in who are some of the horses you kind of start with.
Yeah, so I mean, we're talking about the wide open field. The morning line favorite, extremely lukewarm, 5-1 with the 6. And the 6 is a deserving favorite, in my opinion, but it's still a horse that I'm going to try and beat, especially if it's going to be on the lower ends of the spectrum. So, and this is kind of how I've pivoted and handicapped, and I've probably even said this on your show in the past, and really trying to get away from it is the saying of, well, if this horse repeats his last effort, he'll win. That might have been a little bit more accurate and true back in the day when horses were running, a week away, spaced out, where,
right.
If a horse came back in 30 days, it was considered a layoff. That's just the normal time now. So we're talking about a living animal being trained by a human being, being handled by human beings, being ridden by a human being, 30 days apart. So, and now for the Breeders' Cup, we're talking about horses being shipped from overseas, running with Lasix for the first time, running on a course that's completely different that they've never been to. So trying to handicap and figure out, well, if this horse runs to the last, effort, it will win. I just feel like we're just kind of banging our heads against the wall and doing more guessing and handicapping than we really need to. So the way I've kind of pivoted, and I feel like it's even more, important in a race like this with 2-year-olds, with horses coming over from overseas, running on a turf course that's different. We look up and down the past performances on the European shippers, and you see soft, you see good, you see heavy. You're not going to get any of that over here. If
the weather should be good, yeah.
Well, but even if it rains and it gets to a heavy footing, what's considered heavy and soft in European, we wouldn't even run that here. They would be on the dirt. So it's not, I wouldn't say that you can throw those races out, but if you see a horse coming from overseas that maybe didn't put their best foot forward when the turf was soft or heavy, but then ran well when it's good, those are horses that I'm looking to, improve a little bit, in my opinion, when they come over here. Whereas you get another horse, and I'm speaking completely hypothetically, you get another horse that's a world beater from Europe that only is run on heavy, or soft, or that horse isn't going to run on that when you get out here. So maybe that's a horse to beat, and so I'm looking at more, what is this horse doing for the first time? And do I think that horse is going to improve or go backwards? And so, when we're, again, circling back to the race, when we're talking about 2-year-olds who have raced 2, 3, 4 times, again, doing things completely different this weekend, are they going to improve or are they going to go backwards? So, going back to the 6 at 5-1, we've got the two wins. None of them were super impressive. And the other thing that you look at is both wins, the horse was favored. So the horse did what the horse was asked to do and what the horse was expected to do. When the horse wasn't favored, it got blown away by Jackie's Warrior, who's a legitimate horse. But so that's where I'm thinking of, is this where my money's going to lay on a horse that has really just done what is asked of him and now is going to face probably the stiffest competition as far as a full field that he's ever seen. So I'm not going to let the horse beat me in horizontal wagers, but as far as a win wager, that the 6 is not going to see a dime of my money.
When we talk about some of the European horses that are coming in, who would be some that you look to? I mean, we have Seal Away from the inside. We have New Mandate. We have Cadillac. We have Battleground. You've got Go Atletico and Devil Walla and the Learjet. I mean, there are many to look at, or any of those, a couple of them on your radar?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a couple of them, and the other thing that I'm looking at, every time that I open the PPs and start with the races, as corny as the saying is, pace makes the race, in my opinion.
Yep.
This last meet at Saratoga, I'll tell you what, it felt like they were in the jockey room pulling straws on who was going to get the 52-second half-mile lead. Just drove me crazy.
It feels like that the last couple of years. It's just felt like that more and more, right? Yeah, it's just like merry-go-round. Oh, go ahead. Gentleman's racing.
I don't even know what we're doing right now. Like my horse is in last, and I thought he was going to be on the lead. So, but we go back, and you get a lot of these same jockeys that are going to be in the same situation. But now you're getting the European jockeys coming in. You're getting the Southern California jockeys coming in. And this is kind of the first time that this has happened since COVID. Even the Kentucky Derby, you had to have that, specific quarantine date to come in and ride. So, this is the goal. There's no, well, I hope this works out. Whatever's being told in the paddock is what's happening. So I'm thinking there's going to be a little bit more pace involved. If your horse has the best chance, that's what that jockey's going to do. He's not waiting for the next race, if that makes sense. So I saw a decent amount of speed in this race. Even some of the Europeans, if you look back at their past performances, while they might not be super fast as far as the quick fractions compared to our American U.S. horses, they're still prominent horses that want to be forwardly placed.
Yep.
And I'm not looking for a crazy, speedball type figure, but if we're running, just, a fraction under 24 seconds in the first quarter. And I think Tom Amos was the one that said it. He said, it doesn't matter how fast Serengeti Empress is going as long as she's not headed. Horses can run fast as long as they're doing it on their own and relax.
They relax. Yep.
And I just don't see that in this case. I see, the 1, the 5, the 7, the 8, the 11, the 13. I think a lot of these horses are going to be a little bit more forwardly placed. So where I'm kind of looking, kind of focus in my eyes is I really thought the 2 new mandate was interesting.
Yep.
You get a rider like Frankie Dettori. The guy is an absolute professional. One of those guys that, you always think of, the horse for the course, or, this jockey really does well down the hill. Frankie can ride anywhere.
Yep. Anything,
he knows
anywhere.
Pace. He knows how to ride. He's a professional. So I just feel like this horse is going to get into a decent spot. We're rattling off 3 wins in a row, and while 2 of those 3 the horse was favored, 2 starts back the horse was 8-1.
You got to win at a mile, which is beautiful. He had trouble. If you go back and watch his race last time out, he hopped at the start. He was in tight. He was steadied back. He was like 4th, 5th. So while he was the favorite, he had to overcome. He wanted to go. He kind of had to settle, and it was a good effort. It was very, very impressive. You mentioned his 4th in a row. He's my top pick in here, Sean.
There we go. So The show's over. Sorry, guys. Everybody can go home.
So and I think as far as like value is concerned, I think anything, like over 8-1 or so feels about right for him. And, in that range, I'm fine with him. If I can get sort of that, I'll probably be making a win wager on him and then using along with some others and exotics. Who would be some of the others to look to?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're probably going to hear this on many podcasts and write-ups numerous times this weekend. Is I wouldn't dismiss Chad Brown, the 4 public sector at 8-1. You got Irad on again, absolute professional guy, can win anywhere. The horse makes sense to me. My issue is it's Chad Brown, it's the Breeders' Cup, it's Keeneland. Are we going to get 8-1? I don't think so. So, if this horse starts to drift down to favoritism, I start to kind of lean elsewhere. Mm-hmm. I don't think that this is a horse that, I wouldn't say, there's absolutely no such thing as stone cold lock in horse racing. But when you lean towards a favorite and a short price, you want to have, a good feeling going in. And we had just talked, the two's our top pick. So, landing on the 4 public sector at, if the horse starts to drift towards favoritism with Chad Brown, I just feel like we can get value elsewhere. And one horse that I really kind of wanted to touch on, I don't know that the horse is good enough to win. Most likely not. I thought if the 16 Harlan Estate draws in, I thought the horse is very interesting underneath. Again, I think there's going to be pace in the race. I think there's going to be horses going to the front. This horse wants to be forwardly placed. If he draws in, is going to be drawn to the outside. He's got a very aggressive rider. Peter Urton knows what he's doing. He's not super well known, but he knows what he's doing in big races. I don't think Juan Hernandez knows what he's doing. He's not going to gun to the front from the 16 hole. So, I'm really looking for this horse to sit in kind of a good spot, get first run on the leaders. I don't think he's good enough to hold off the closers, but, we're sitting at 30-1.
And then the horse, if he draws in, for sure.
And we see those horses that draw in from the outside and they kind of get ignored. This horse is probably going to be upwards of 50 to 60-1 if he draws in. If that horse hits the board, I think we're really juicing up the exact,
any exotics.
Sorry, exotics. That's the word.
Yeah, exactas, tries, supers, anything. Yeah, no doubt about it. At a big price, he can just kind of fall into a good trip. We're talking race number 7 on Friday, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf with Sean Alvarez. Sean and I both are very high on the 2 new mandate in a race that there might be like 6 or 7 horses that are, between 6 and 10-1 in here. You're going to have a bunch of like 5 and just over 5-1 shots. You had mentioned too, and I kind of feel the same way. You would at least think in these bigger fields where you have a lot of horses that are sort of stretching out to, and a lot that you don't really know if want to go, or they've shown some speed going shorter. You just kind of imagine there's going to be a quick contested pace in here. So a lot of our wagers will be built around new mandate. We mentioned some of the other horses that we're high on for or against. Anyone else in here that you'd like to discuss that you might be using or might be against? Anything either way.
No, I like I said, I really think the 1, 5, 7, 8, 11, 13 are going to be kind of forwardly placed. That's kind of my speed thoughts on the race, and think that the 16 can kind of get just kind of get a trip gifted to them, and possibly be able to hit the board. And like we said, I really like the two new mandate, and we'll be using the 4 public sector as well. And that's kind of where I land on it. And if we can get something along the lines of 2, 4, 16 in the try, I'll be a very happy guy over at Circa.
There we go. Sean hanging out in Vegas this week. Sean's writing, you can see all over the place, different places. He's a frequent podcast guest on many different shows. And as good of a handicapper and a wager and a better at wagering he is an even better guy, one of the nicer guys you'll meet out there. Sean, buddy, I hope you have a great week. Have a lot of fun over there. Good luck. Thanks again for getting up early and doing this with me really early in the week. We're recording this Tuesday early morning, even early morning on the Pacific time, so I got you up a little earlier, but always appreciate your work, buddy.
Gosh, it really is only Tuesday, isn't it? God,
yeah.
I mean, can't wait for this weekend. It couldn't come soon enough, but really appreciate you having me on. I always enjoy sitting down and talking with you. Thank you. Thanks again, man.
Tell the folks again, where can we follow you along on social media?
Yeah, so I'm at basically at Smooth Turn 2 on literally everything. Just my easy way of being able to follow. And then just writing, random things for racing dudes when I have a great experience. So you could expect something very shortly on my last Sunday and the next couple weeks here in Vegas.
Sean Alvarez, you'll be hearing him again coming very soon on That's What G Said. Thanks a lot, Sean. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back with plenty more. One of the longtime sponsors of That's What G Said podcast, Cera Candle Company, CERA Candles.com. And when you use the promo code GINO, you get 10% off of your purchase. The goal of this company was to create a candle 100% natural and clean burning and high quality that everyone can enjoy. They use all natural soy wax, none of those toxins that are found in paraffin wax that's used by a lot of other leading brands. That natural soy wax will actually hold a scent better and burned up to 50% longer than the traditional paraffin wax candles. These are lead-free, cotton wicks, natural scents. You got over 25 different scents available, 3 different sizes, best ingredients, quality packaging, affordable pricing, longer burning. They care about you over at Cera Candles too. They give you instructions and details on how to keep your candle clean, how to ensure the perfect burn. Make sure you do it safely where you're trimming the wick and you're putting out the flame with the top of the candle. CeraCandles.com. Make sure to take a look at Cera Candle Company with the holiday seasons coming up. Great scents to match any type of gift you want to get for your friends, the mood for Thanksgiving, Christmas, or any holidays that you will be celebrating in the coming months. CeraCandles.com. Use that promo code GINO. Sean Alvarez helping us out with the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. And Sean and I felt similar about new mandate. For me, he's worthy of a win wager, anything over 6-1. I just love everything I've seen from this one, who's looking for his 4th in a row. I was extremely impressed with his most recent start, where he had just a ton of trouble, angled widest of all, and really responded. It was visually impressive, and I think he will continue to progress in this spot. That's the number 2 new mandate. I have the 2, the 6 Mustabik, and the 9 Battleground as my top tier of horses, with the 8 Out of Door filing in right behind them. Cadillac, Gretzky, Go Atletico, a couple other horses that I would also look to depending on how you're playing this race with exotics. But for me, it's new mandate, and along with new mandate, it would be the 6 and the 9 as sort of that top tier with Out of Door right below them. Let's see if we can get new mandate home in race 7, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. We are now going to head on to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Let's move to race number 8 on Friday at Keeneland. Ryan Dickey will be joining us to talk about the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Okay, it's time to talk Juvenile Fillies. We're going to race number 8 on Friday, Breeders' Cup Keeneland, and we're looking at November the 6th. Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, these 2-year-old 16th, joining me to discuss this race. Back for fourth, fifth time now. I've had him on a bunch talking racing, handicapper, and writer. Ryan Dickey. Ryan, how's it going, buddy?
I'm doing well today. How about yourself, Gino?
Oh, man, doing great. Like I said, we are, and I appreciate you being super flexible, too. We're recording this early Tuesday morning, so we've looked at the pre-entries for a while, and then Monday night, we got the draw, we got the odds, so we've had plenty of time to look at this field, and we've got an interesting group. I think, we'll go inside to outside, and we'll talk about everyone, but just overall, the thing that I found interesting in just following along with people that I'm sure you follow too on social media and stuff, a lot of racing people, very few people seem to be high on Princess Noor in this spot. And when you just look at numbers and figures, she is no cinch in this race by any means. She does not tower over this field. They're very plain. There are 4 or 5 horses in here that actually have just better speed figures when you look at them. But you got to remember, she hasn't really been tested. She's absolutely crushed groups in all 3, and this is a Baffert filly. He knows better than anyone how to get horses ready for these big races. So I've thought overall the conversation on her is interesting. Like, hearing the way people have talked, I would expect her to be 5-1 at first click and not 9-5.
Sure. I mean, her last race, it was very visually appealing. She looked like she ran very well. She did run okay. The thing that I think is the most telling for that race is not only did she run well, the other horses in that race, the Chandelier, they ran very poor.
Yeah.
And it made it look like she was just so much better, and she was so much better than them. But, I mean, she didn't.
It's a great point. It's a good point that you mentioned. That's something, too. When you beat a group and the others run well and you run well and you beat them, that's one thing. Or if you run well and they all kind of run, But she ran well in a combination with everybody else not running well. And that's why her speed figures are sort of low, and she's really crushed a group. And would she be a surprise in here? No. But for a short price horse, there are definitely some things to knock. Let's start with the inside here. We'll go inside outside since we have a small field. We can really hit on everyone here. The one Simply Ravishing, I mean, pretty difficult to knock this one, Ryan. She's 3 for 3. She's won on the grass. She's won in a race that was taken off the grass. And then she's run on a straight dirt race last time out when she wired the field in the Alcibiades. And you'd imagine she's going to be forwardly placed in here. She might not be the fastest, but she's quick, and it's really tough to knock what she's done. She's a quality animal.
Absolutely. And she has a great backstory. Her dam was basically a rescue. She was purchased for the sum of $500 from Meg Levy at where she's at Blue Water Sales. And when she bought this mare, she was in foal to Revolutionary, and she had a nice little Revolutionary colt. And Meg said, "Hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and breed her back to Lauban." Now Lauban's had great success, and if you look at some of the sires in this race, you got Lauban, you got Nyquist, Into Mischief, and Uncle Mo, and then even Not This Time. There's a lot of really good pedigrees in this race, a lot of upcoming sires, but Simply Ravishing was the result of the first breeding after she purchased this mare for $500, and she's done nothing wrong. I mean, she won at Keeneland, she won going the same distance, she won Grade 1. She looks great. She won by 6 1/4 lengths last time. I think she's the one to beat in this race. I agree with you 100% about Princess Noor. Maybe she'll do well, but I'm the horse to beat in this race.
I agree. I think she's what she's shown has just been simply ravishing. I mean, she's very well named. Send your checks here, folks. Comedy Hour, and that's what G said. Vequist, another. That's so nice is you go through this field and there are quality fillies. She's real quality. She has done, another little wrong. She crushed in the Spinway after just being defeated in her maiden race. So she comes back off of a 4.5 furlong race at Parks, and she wins by 9+ at Saratoga in a Grade 1, comes back in the Frisette. And the difference between her and Day out of the office, both very quality. In the Frisette may have just been the post and sort of the trip, because Vequist was down on the inside and Day at the Office was able to sit a much nicer trip right to the outside. And that sort of made Vequist have to kind of shuffle back a little and then come around and try to go after Day out of the Office, who got the jump in there. So the 2 and the 3, they both come out of the Frisette. They ran 1-2 in that race. We're talking about 2 lightly raced animals, and I mean they both have ability. I would not talk anyone off using either. I'm higher on Day out of the Office. I really loved what I saw from her, and I like that she can sit. I think if the race shapes up with Simply Ravishing trying to go to the lead from the inside, Day out of the Office could sit. I think that Day out of the Office might even be the quickest in here. It wouldn't shock me to see her on the lead, or she's shown she can sit second or third. So I like where she is and sort of where she's drawn compared to the other speeds. What are some of your thoughts on Vequist, and then we can move to Day out of the Office?
Well, it's good that they're 2 and 3 in this race, because they're both coming out of that Frisette, and the Frisette is traditionally one of the prep races for this juvenile Fillies race that you want to look at. Now, the only problem here is that's a one-turn mile, and so neither one of these horses that we're talking about here have made the 2-turn jump, which I think is a big deal in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. So
it helps every progression, and that's what's nice when you look at the horses that are going to be in the tier of shorter prices. That's a major check on the box that Simply Ravishing has over the others, is that win here over this layout of this racetrack.
Yeah, and you look at these two. Vequist is trained by Robert Reed and is based out of Parks, and Day Out of the Office is trained by Tim Ham and has been basically at Thistledown. So we're talking about they're not the premier places to stable Breeders' Cup horses, you'd think, but I mean they ran a very, very good Frisette, and I wouldn't discount either one of those. And I'm with you; I would probably prefer Day Out of the Office between the two of them.
Yeah, and I think the same thing again for Vequist. Like if Vequist was drawn more towards the outside again, I would like her, and maybe she'd have an opportunity to kind of stalk and press a little. I could see her down on the inside, maybe getting shuffled a little bit and not having the easiest of trips. So we'll see what the tactics are with the 3 inside horses, who are all quick. I mean, any one of them wouldn't be a shock if they ended up on the lead. Thoughtfully is kind of an interesting horse, just in that she was so dominant in her first 2, but when we're talking about speed figures in this race and talking about Princess Noor, for a horse who just crushed like that, she got nothing on. I mean, very, very low for a horse winning a grade 2 and who had crushed off of a good maiden score. And then in the Alcibiades, she just really didn't show up at all. And who knows, maybe she might just not be that good. She might just be what their speed figures are. I can sort of understand why Asmussen throws her in here, though. It's just a field of 7, and if she's coming from off the pace, she might be able to kind of clunk up and hit the board. I just can't see her winning. She would really have to improve, and 3 or 4 of the others would probably have to really regress.
I agree. Thoughtfully is the one of the 7 entries in this race that I like the least. Mm-hmm. And it's probably because she's a Tappet, so she could very well get better next year, but I don't think that there's going to be much difference between when she ran on October 2nd and what she's going to run on November the 6th. So I really don't like her. I mean, she is a grade 2 winner. She has a nice resume. I think we'll see more from her next year.
Yep. I agree. Just doesn't feel like the right spot for her. And hey, I hope she runs well. I have her on a fantasy league, so I'd be ecstatic if she runs well and picks up some points for me. But can't really see it here. Girl Daddy, another one who you can't really knock. She debuted sprinting at Ellis, going 6 furlongs. Then she took a step forward, going at Churchill Downs. But as you were mentioning, 1-turn mile there, a little bit different than this mile layout here, but done nothing wrong. She has that nice kind of tactical style where she doesn't have to be right on the lead, but she can sit a few lengths behind. And Romans has in the juvenile races sort of a couple wild card horses. I think she's one of them here, where she's probably not in that top tier of the betting choices, along with Simply Ravishing, Day at the Office, and Princess Noor. And then after her, you'll probably have a couple others that'll be high up on the board. She's going to be in that middle range, I think, right around that 5 or 6 to 1. And I don't have many knocks on her. She's I think just maybe a cut below those other 3, and maybe not even that much below a horse like Princess Noor.
there's a big difference to me between having 2 races under your belt and having 3 races under your belt. It might not seem like a lot, but when you come to the Breeders' Cup juvenile races, I don't really like horses that have only had 2 starts.
Foundation.
And this is going to be her first time going 2 turns like the rest of, a couple of the other major contenders. I just like them better. She's done nothing wrong. She'll probably have a much better year as a sophomore. As far as the 7 horses in this race, I have her 6th.
Yeah. I sort of feel the same with you. She's not. She wouldn't be a shock, but as far as her progression along the way, I like the others that are sort of a step more along the way. Crazy Beautiful of the longer prices, I could absolutely see her hitting the board. I don't know if she's good enough to win. I think that last time out was a race we can probably cross out, just in that her running style, I think, is going to be better, and I would expect to see her kind of taking back and trying to make one late run and pick up the pieces. When Simply Ravishing got away, she was the one who ended up having to try and chase that one, or else Simply Ravishing would have, been 5 or 6 lengths clear. So I think she ended up doing the dirty work. I could see her getting a take back and pass some of these horses that were caught up in the pace battle early on. So I wouldn't dismiss her at the, second, third, and fourth spots, bottom of your tries and supers. I don't know if she could jump up and beat any of the top ones, though.
Here's what I like about her. The only other horse in this race that had a debut at a mile or longer was Simply Ravishing, which is the other McPeak horse. Mm-hmm. I like the fact that she started off on the turf at a mile at Ellis Park. That's fine. She won handily. That's good. Then she stays at Ellis Park, and she wins a stakes race next out, but she goes back to 7 furlongs. She goes back on Churchill Downs in September, back to a mile again, this time on the dirt in a grade 3. She comes in second behind Girl Daddy, who's also in this race. Then she goes a mile and the 16th, 2 turns on the Alcibiades, a grade 1 race. She finished second. Obviously, she was beaten by her stablemate by 6 1/4 lengths, but she's checking all the boxes for me. 20-1. I think she's a steal. She's a one to use underneath. I think we could see a McPeak exacta.
Yeah, that would not shock me at all. What's nice about his 2 runners is they complement each other very well in here. In that you just feel like Simply Ravishing is going to be moving from the inside. Crazy Beautiful today in this spot, going to have a much better opportunity to just sit 5th, 6th, more mid-pack to the back of the pack and relax early, and then just try to mow them all down late or pass as many as she can. As a price, I like her more than a few others for sure. She would probably be in like a 3rd, 4th spot in this race for me. Crazy Beautiful, big price with an opportunity in a small field to at least hit the board here. And then we got Princess Noor. We talked a little bit about her to start. She's the number 7 in here, your 9-5 morning line favorite. She's 3 for 3. She's undefeated. She's got the progression nicely from 5.5 to 7 to a mile and a 16th. And she's done everything she's asked of her, right? I mean, we're not even talking about races that have been close. She has dusted horses in races where she really hasn't been asked. It's just, so is Simply Ravishing. So has Day Out of the Office. They've kind of done the same thing, and they've done it with better numbers, with better speed figures. Simply Ravishing has the advantage of the 2 turns and the local here, and Day Out of the Office might have an advantage of being a little bit quicker early. So, I mean, I just, at the short price in here, I'm with, I think, a lot of the other people in that I prefer the other 2 shorter prices. She could sit a nice trip from the outside in a small field, but if she wins at 2-1 or under, there are plenty of 2-1 shots I can find on any given day, anywhere, Ryan. I'll kind of just, clap my hands and move forward to later on Friday and then on to Saturday, because I just feel like you're better off if the morning lines hold here. I would have a tough time playing her. The only way I think I would be able to throw her into the mix is if she really floated up.
Yeah, my big thing against her is, her trainer's been in the news a little while.
Yeah.
For a couple things.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of scrutiny here with the Breeders' Cup. Now, he has, obviously, he's all world. He's won all sorts of Breeders' Cup races. He won with Silver Bullet Day in 98 in this race. He ran in 2000 or won in 2007 with Indian Blessing in this race. She's going to be the favorite here, Princess Noor. I don't think she deserves it, and I don't want any part of her whatsoever. I hope she finishes 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th. That's all I really care about in this race.
Yep, she won't be on a lot of my tickets. Princess Nora, a favorite, willing to play against in here. And for me, I lean a little more to Day Out of the Office, but I completely respect Simply Ravishing. Those will probably be 2 I build a lot of my exotics around. I'll include Crazy Beautiful in some of them, and then underneath I'll probably throw in some Girl Daddy, some Vequis to complete the tries and the supers. But Princess Nora is going to be out of most. I think it sounds like you're feeling the same way. Like I'm fine with just letting her beat me in here if she can, especially in the pick 4s and 5s and those kind of wagers.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, we see this race very, very similarly. I would really like to see the McPeak exacta, but I feel that maybe Simply Ravishing is just a little bit better than number 3, Day Out of the Office. So it might come in 1, 3, 6. I think if I were to bet a straight trifecta, I would go 1, 3, 6 here.
Ryan, you've had some work out that I've seen recently with some of my old friends over at Past the Wire. Love John Stetton and the crew over there. Let us know where we can find it. Let us know some of the stuff you've been working on, and where we can catch up with you on social media.
Well, all of the juvenile races, so all 5 juvenile races, I'm doing a little write-up. Yesterday I had this one out, so it made it real easy. So I'm glad you chose me to do the juvenile fillies. That made things much easier for me. So thanks. We'll be doing all the other races this week leading up to Friday, and you can find me on Twitter at rdickey249. And by the way, how about those Dodgers and how about those Lakers?
Oh man, I gotta say, I'm gonna do a show I think next week with like a bunch of my friends and then just a bunch of fans online where they get to call in for 5 minutes each or so and just kind of share some thoughts and memories because the Lakers was awesome and in a tough year, right? Everything's been struggling this year. So I think individually when we can have some of these little victories like for our sports teams or good days at the track or something, anything to kind of uplift us in a real anxious, year with so much going on, it was great. And I got to share it with my son. What a spoiled little kid, huh? The first sports he ever seen and rooted for in his life. The day he was born, the Lakers played the Suns, and I was watching the game on the phone right there with him and showing him, and we have pictures of me showing him like, okay, here's the Lakers, and for me, the Dodgers have won once in my lifetime, and I was a year and a half old. I had no idea what was going on, so this was even though it was a shortened season and all that, I will say this one for I think the Dodger fans in general felt like a lot more than one. It kind of felt like a very good like lifetime achievement award for the Clayton Kershaw era of the Dodgers, just they finally got over the hump. I'm really happy for him and for them. And as you could see, you opened up a can of worms because I would keep you here and talk for like 2 hours and just ramble.
Well, we're not going to do that today.
Ryan, dude, not today. You're the man. I appreciate you talking with us, and I'm going to look forward to reading the rest of your write-ups the rest of the week over on Past the Wire.
Thank you very much for having me again. I appreciate it.
That is Ryan Dickey. You heard where to follow him and get the rest of his thoughts on the juvenile races later this week on PastTheWire.com. Don't go anywhere, folks. We've got another race to discuss right after this. We've known full-service realtor Cindy Carava for quite some time, and she is one of the kindest and most genuine people you will ever meet. That's exactly the type of person you need when you're dealing with real estate. You want someone that's going to be honest with you, that's going to be telling you what's going on, and this is a full-service realtor. She can help you out in many different ways. Cindy Carava, if the name sounds familiar, the wife of former horse racing trainer Jack Carava, who is now an agent for Tyler Bays, who's been a mainstay on the Southern California racing circuit. Cindy can help you out in so many different ways. Selling, purchasing, leasing, help you finding vendors like handymen, painters, landscapers, and gardeners that she personally has used. If you need help getting pre-approved for a home loan, she can connect you with the right people and the lenders that she's worked closely with. She covers all parts of the San Gabriel Valley, parts of North San Diego County, Del Mar, Solana Beach, Rancho, Santa Fe. Even if you're just curious to see how much your home is worth, she can do a free market analysis of your home's value. You can find Cindy on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, reviews about her on Yelp and Zillow, or if you just go to cindycarava.com, you can find all of the contact information there. For all of your real estate needs, cindycarava.com. Okay, we move along. Actually, before we get to the juvenile Phillies turf, just overview on the juvenile Phillies. So for me, it's the 3. It's Day Out of the Office, who I like the most in here. I do respect Simply Ravishing quite a bit. I give Girl Daddy a little more of a shot than Ryan did. I'm just not that high on Princess Noir, not at that price. The 6 Crazy Beautiful as a big long shot, I would not dismiss using in the bottom of your exotics there, hitting the board in the 2, 3, 4 spots. So to me, it just, the 3 is where I would start and single, and then in other spots, I would end up using probably the 3 inside horses. It would be 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. I'd leave out the 4 and the 7 most likely because I don't want to take a short price on Princess Noir. Thoughtfully, I think, is a little bit up against it. Everyone else in here with a good effort could surprise, but so it would be one ticket or one approach singling Day Out of the Office, and another where we're spreading out a little bit and using combinations of those, but against Princess Noir. Now we head to race number 9 on Friday at Keeneland. We're going to talk Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies Turf with Andy Villanueva. Okay, we are on to Breeders' Cup Friday, so past performances to race 9 for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies Turf. They're going to be headed a mile out at Keeneland. Joining me to discuss this race, handicapper. You've heard him on this show a couple times. It's been a while because we talked to Sam Houston the last few times, which is going to be coming up soon, Andy. Very excited for that. But today our focus will be Breeders' Cup race number 9. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here and can't wait for Friday and Saturday. Big days of racing.
Awesome stuff. So let's get right into it. This is a very, very interesting race and one of the ones that you'd imagine many directions you could go when you've got young horses like this going long on the turf course. Just as far as the wagering is concerned, the top kind of tier of betting choices, it looks like Aunt Pearl, who is 2 for 2, undefeated. She was excellent in the Jessamine, winning the grade 2 there, and she's really, really quick. You've got Plum Ali, who's 3 for 3. She's undefeated. She's got a little more tactical speed. She'll probably be more mid-pack to back of the mid-pack. And then you have Campanelle for Wesley Ward. Those 3 are, the 3 shortest choices on the morning line. Campanelle is a Group 1 winner. She is 3 for 3 and undefeated. She won at Ascot and then over at Deauville. So not a bad top tier to begin with here. And I mean, there are so many ways you can go.
There really are. And, to be honest with you, I can make a knock on every single one of those top tier horses. I think with Campanelle, you're having a filly that stretches out, and the only way she knows how to go is to the front. And with Aunt Pearl, that Jessamine, if you go back and look at it, she had an easy lead. But if just the entire card on turf, anything that was on the front end stayed on the front end. It was a merry-go-round type day there on the turf course. And she's just not going to get that easy lead with those stretch outs and all that. I kind of like a lot of the European horses in this field to make runs.
And I think I'm definitely against Aunt Pearl. I feel like she's one-dimensional. I'll probably use Campanelle in some spots, maybe just thinking maybe she's just a freak and stretching out. She can even get in front of Aunt Pearl and just run everybody off their feet here. Plum Ali, I don't really have as many of the favorites. I prefer her, no doubt about it, of the other 2, because I think she's, as you said, she's more likely in here to get a better trip. But you mentioned some Euros, and I think I saw you talking about one on social media. And forgive me if you don't want to talk this one, but there's an interesting story about the number 8 Mother Earth in here. Is that one of the horses you wanted to talk about?
That's definitely one of the horses. I was going to. That's actually that's probably my best bet of the day for Friday. Is Mother Earth at 20-1. I mean, you're going to get a price on her. But the most important part with her is she's got tactical speed. If nobody wants the lead, she'll go to the lead. And, as good as Campagnell is in Europe, that one race or two races, those fillies faced probably the two best Euro 2-year-old fillies on turf in Shale and Pretty Gorgeous, and has finished third. And then you also got Odonata, who's also run in that same type of class. So I think a lot of people are going to look at the Americans and go, well, they're pretty head and shoulders, but these two fillies specifically are really going to be tough.
Yeah, there were some inclusion. And I kind of, in the longer races, even with younger horses, the sprint races, sometimes I worry about the European horses coming over and keeping up. Any of the longer races at all, it doesn't bother me. And I'm with you. I think Mother Earth is the one. So the story about Mother Earth, in her last race, she was running with another Aidan O'Brien trained horse, and they got mixed up. The name Snowfall. They got mixed up. They ran under each other's name. So when it looked like Snowfall finished third at what was around 50-1, once they did a little digging, they actually found out that it was Mother Earth who ran third in that race that day.
And that's why it's so important, especially with the Euros. I mean, not that it happens often, but you have to go back and you have to go look at all the races that the grade ones. And I took I always do this with Breeders' Cup Day. I go back, I look at all the races, the grade ones, the stake races, the preps. And when I was looking at it, I'm like, that looks like Mother Earth. That doesn't look like Snowfall. Because, Snowfall's got the little tiny star on her forehead, and Mother Earth is kind of just like regular faced, and I'm like, that's Mother Earth, that isn't Snowfall. And then I go look in the PPs and I see that they made the changes, and I'm like, dang it. I'm like, oh.
You're hoping to get something that nobody else would have seen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it was reading the story. Aidan O'Brien, who wasn't around, said something similar. Was quoted as saying something similar to you. Like, he saw it and was like, "Oh no!" He knew right away. He wasn't, I guess, the one there handling it, and he was somewhere else handling a different horse. So, interesting story there with Mother Earth.
And Pretty Gorgeous. If she were to be running here, I know Shale probably wasn't going to run here because she kind of had a really rough race last time out. But Pretty Gorgeous, man, she's a beast. She's big, she's tall, she's really muscled up, and she looks like a boy. I mean, no offense to the girls, but man, that filly, if she were out here, would be easily 8-5, 7-5 morning line favorite.
Great class for Mother Earth, who she's been keeping up. I mean, another one you talked about Undada, who's done very little wrong. She's again been beaten twice by Shale and Pretty Gorgeous, so it's really tough to knock her. She's sort of lightly raced, and she hasn't done as much. She could be forgotten about. What about anyone else? Miss Amulet's another one who was Group 1 place last time out, going 6 furlongs. But I prefer, and I think go ahead.
I see. So, my way of thinking is if you're going to go on a European bandwagon or European horse, especially with Breeders' Cup, you want a horse that's got some foundation to him, already raced a mile.
Completely agree in this spot.
Has basically gone up and down the hills, so they got a little bit more foundation than the Americans who are basically used to the flat racing.
Totally agree.
So, that's
point
why,
you more to Mother Earth versus some of the other ones who are more 7 furlongs. Even a horse like Miss Amulet, we've only seen going 5 and 6 furlongs. So it's not. I agree. When they come over, the European horses on the grass, I want them. A lot of the times, it's because they have an advantage, right? And it really, whatever, they've been running farther, bigger races against tougher company. When you come over like this, and you're going to be having to travel and do something for the first time, I'm not as high on you. The positive is it's not going to be like a short price situation for either. Just get some value in it, but I definitely like some others more.
Yeah, and I mean that's what makes this game so great. It's everybody has their own opinion, and you make a decision based on what you see and how you handicap. I just don't think that the Americans are at the same pace as the Europeans are. Not to mention, it's been cold at Keeneland. It's not warm. Those Europeans probably already have started growing their winter coats, and that's going to be a positive compared to the fillies that haven't, because there's a lot of those fillies in America that aren't as they're a little bit more slick and a little bit more lean than the European fillies.
So we're talking Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf here with Andy Villanueva. We've gone through most of the field in here. Is there anyone else that we haven't mentioned? And if not, give us some of your kind of final thoughts on the race and maybe how you'll be playing it.
I like Plum Ali, but I like her underneath. I'll be playing this field. I'll be playing with Mother Earth and just using her for everything right now. Maybe a little Ordinata too as well, but I'm not going to take any of the Americans on this.
Mother Earth as a key horse, and definitely one on top for Andy in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf. Andy, thank you so much. I appreciate you doing this with me early on Tuesday morning. Let some of the folks out there know where can we follow you on social media, and I would love to have you back soon. We're not too far away from Sam Houston. I know a track that we both love to play. Yeah,
it's a great place to be and watch races, and everybody can follow me at A Villanueva 3rd at Twitter.
Andy Villanueva, thank you so much, buddy. Have a great rest of your day, and good luck this weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Do not go anywhere, folks. We'll be back with much more. We'll be heading on to race number 10. Another of the difficult races to discuss there with Andy V. We, have to be looking at a race that I'll be using at least a few. I thought Alda was interesting, not necessarily a horse I talked a whole lot about. She took back to last of 7 early. She was 5 off. She was in the 2-path. She was up to 5th, just a couple lengths off, and then she got shifted out a bit when the horse next to her didn't corner. She was a clear-cut second, and I thought she was a pretty solid second that day. The 4, Plum Ali, I'll be using everywhere. I think she's the one to beat, so I'm not going to be leaving her off my tickets anywhere. The 10, Camp and Yell, will be on some of the tickets that I've got. Those are probably sort of towards the top. After them, it becomes, spread out city here. It's 2, 5, 9, 8, and 12. So 3, 4, 10 as my top tier. 2, 5, 9, 8, 12 as horses to use underneath them in some of the exotics, or if you want to spread out in this race and then single in one or the other races in the pick 5, something like that. Because this isn't a race where I would single. I actually have maybe 3 different spots throughout the pick 5 that I'd be okay with singling, but race number 9, I'd be more likely to want at least a few in here. Finish things up for Breeders' Cup Friday with Barry Spears talking Breeders' Cup Juvenile. It is main event time for Friday, Breeders' Cup Friday. We're going to flip to race number 10 at Keeneland if you're following along with your past performances. And we are talking about November the 6th. Going to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Joining me, good friend, Barry Spears. So, Barry, a couple important questions. Number one, when we're talking about juvenile, are we talking about slow motion for me, or are we talking about back that ass up?
Man, those are both classics, so
right?
You can't go wrong with either one.
They take me back for sure. I was laughing last night. I was like, looking through all the juvenile races. I was like, okay, which ones are juvenile songs? I was going back and looking up some of the popular ones. I was like, I was in this little rabbit hole on YouTube going through some of the old ones. So we've got the Breeders' Cup Juvenile to talk about. So we got a fun race, Barry, because not only is this a race where we're obviously handicapping trying to pick the winner, but whenever we see these juvenile races, and in this case, we're looking at 2-year-olds, we're already kind of in the back of our head thinking, oh, these might be Derby horses next year. So that's always kind of like a 2-for-1 when you're looking at the young horses.
Yeah, it is. And, actually, funny enough, I was thinking about this also when I was looking over the races. If a horse can come out of this race and make it to the Derby and be a contender, that's a pretty big feat. I mean, a lot of these horses kind of, end up peaking a little bit early. And then other horses, get, they get passed later on by some younger types or lightly raced types, I should say. But, the few that we've had that came out of this race and was prevalent come Derby season have been very good horses. So it's always a good thing to have a horse in this race.
We got a big field too of 14, and I guess we can just kind of start with the horse who's your morning line favorite, and that's Jackie's Warrior in here. And hey, you really can't knock what he's done, Barry. He's 4 for 4. He is a 3-time graded stakes winner. He's really, really fast. But I think when you're looking at favorites and you're trying to poke some holes, you're going to look and say, okay, well, he hasn't gone this far yet. He hasn't gone the mile and a 16th, and he'll definitely be facing what looks like the toughest group he's going to deal with. What do you think of Jackie's Warrior?
I think Jackie's Warrior is superior to every horse in this race. Like you said, there's very few knocks on him. Obviously going 2 turns to me means more than actually the distance.
Mm-hmm.
He's never gone that trip around 2 turns, which, sometimes can be a little bit difficult for a young horse like that.
Yep.
But as far as his speed, he towers over this field. It's unbelievable how much faster he is on paper than everybody else.
And he's a deserving favorite. They're going to have to catch him. They're going to have to beat him. When you look up and down a field like this with young horses stretching out, though, maybe a couple others that could be forwardly placed. I think like the next tier we would probably go to talk about would be Essential Quality and Reinvestment Risk. For Reinvestment Risk, he's had to chase Jackie's Warrior twice, and that's probably he Reinvestment Risk would be better in a situation like this. I think a bigger field, if somebody else can maybe go and soften up Jackie's Warrior a little bit, and he doesn't have to do that. That's where he might be best. And that may not even be this race, but maybe down the line. He's been a little unlucky having to deal with that horse who's just a little bit faster than him in a couple starts.
Yeah. It's just a strange kind of thing when you see horses like that chasing what seems to be a better horse. And it's crazy. It's almost like in sports, you play a team, let's say 3 times. They handle you twice, but the 3rd time you're able to turn the tables on them.
See it in football, right? All the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
And it's like these guys are way better. We've seen them play twice already, but the 3rd time the other team beats them, the underdog. So there could be a little of that in play with Reinvestment Risk, chasing Jackie's Warrior twice. Like, he just didn't look like he was ever going to go by at any point in the race. But, it's the Breeders' Cup going around 2 turns, some other little variables that could turn the tables. I actually don't like Reinvestment Risk too much. Just because of that reason that, you're
looking for really like a new face.
Right.
A new face, if it's going to be somebody to beat Jackie's Warrior, would that maybe be Essential Quality?
No, it's actually likable.
Nice. There we go.
I like that horse a lot. I think that the past performances, at least the maiden win on September 19th, was a little bit deceiving. I think it's a little bit faster than what it appears on paper. And I don't think this horse needs the lead either. So, I'm expecting Johnny V to try to sit a good trip here and kind of make a run. I don't know if this horse is fast enough to beat Jackie's Warrior, but that's where I'm going with this, and probably using maybe Reinvestment Risk for 3rd. But I'm liking the cold exacted Jackie's Warrior likable.
Likable, the number 4, who should offer you some really nice value, 15-1 on the morning line for Pletcher. I'm going to be using Likable in a lot of my exotics, and I think we hit on the top, probably at least 3 or 4 of the top choices, a couple others to discuss. I mean, anytime you see Baffert throw a horse like Classier in here, I mean, this horse just ran on October 24th a couple of weeks ago, and they wheel him right back. You always got to take a little bit of notice, because someone like Baffert wouldn't just toss a horse into a race. Like, he doesn't get like the Derby or Breeders' Cup fever. He's been there so many times. So this horse has some ability. It's quite a bit to ask for a horse coming back really quickly, having to deal with a lot of other seasoned horses, and also having to stretch out from 6.5. That just feels like he's going to have to be really, really good to beat this group.
Yeah. And it could be a situation where he could be a freak going 2 turns. It wouldn't surprise me at all. if this horse just steps up and runs a big race. But I'm with you. It's kind of a huge ask.
And if he's like 10, if he's around that price of 12 to 1 or so, then that's okay. Then at least the price is built into some of those things that you're going to have to take. He's not it wouldn't be like you're taking a short price Baffert horse.
Right.
So I can accept it a little bit as far as using it, but it's still as far as like best chances to win this race, I still have him stacked below a few others.
Yeah. Somewhere between 12 to 15 to 1 is probably fair value. But unfortunately, my opinion, I think that the Baffert horse is going to get bet a little bit lower than that, and I can't touch that horse under 10 to 1.
I agree.
The very bottom.
And I would prefer your horse at likable at a similar price. If you're going to get the two of them if you're looking for a price in this race going against Jackie's Warrior, I'd much prefer the one that you mentioned, likable. What's nice about likable too is he's got a race at a mile under his belt too. I like sometimes the progression. It's a little bit easier to have to go a mile and a 16th once you've already gone 7 and a mile also. So that's another positive for likable. Horse to mention who's sort of a wild card, I guess, could be sitting on Go. He's a horse who's hasn't really been tested in his 2 starts. He's 2 for 2. He's undefeated. Romans generally does a really good job with younger horses like this. Sitting on Go. What are some of your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, not much not to like at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He's run 2 turns. Actually, no, I'm sorry. He's only been 1 turn. That was the Winter Mile at Churchill, and ran very, very well on the stretch out. So it wouldn't surprise me if he stepped up and ran a better race. One horse that really, really jumped out to me too, that I and this is atypical of me, is I don't appreciate the rider that's riding the horse is Rumbauer. I think that horse has a big shot. He's run 2 turns already, and actually ran pretty well last time in the American Pharoah. Kind of a bad breaker all 3 times. Mm-hmm. Just didn't get out of the gate, got bumped. Just hadn't had a good start, and that's fine here too, because he may be the one that kind of sucks up late, past his tired horses, and gets in the try of the Super.
Yeah, and at a decent price too. One of those, over 10 to 1 shots that you're sort of looking for, especially if you're someone who's going to be playing Jackie, like sort of how you were kind of looking at the race. Maybe Jackie's Warrior on top of some others. He would be a nice horse to include with some of those others. As we look up and down the field, we think we've hit most of the other top contenders. It's a big field of 14. Is there anyone else in here that you might be using in some of your exotics?
No, I mean, a horse like Camp Hope is just hopeless, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but I think we touched on all the ones. Maybe a horse like Next could do something from Wesley Ward. The internal fractions on that race was pretty solid and could stack up and depending on the running style and what kind of trip they want to get, that horse could be kind of in the mix too.
Yeah, sort of a wild card. They're a little bit untested off of the big win at Keeneland. Just like you said, they don't really know what they've got here. It's sort of like, hey, let's take a swing and see. And yeah, you look up and down this big field, and I think we hit the main contenders. And Jackie's Warrior will be probably one of the shorter prices on both of the Breeders' Cup days, and very intriguing to watch, because I think all along he's been a horse that they knew was good, but they weren't sure how far he'd want to keep going. But he's answered every test along the way. This will be his toughest, but if he just keeps progressing as everybody else keeps progressing, he's going to be tough. It's a very, very interesting race. I think I like Essential Quality probably a little more than you, because I think he can stalk, but this wasn't a race where, Barry, I think I couldn't really get past the ones that we talked about. I couldn't really find any of the the real big bust out long shots, I thought. To me, I think, maybe I was looking at Likeable. I was looking at also Classier. You kind of have to look at and just kind of take and see what price you're going to get. Sitting at Go. Those to me feel like the prices. And you mentioned Rombauer. So I think if you're wanting to get maybe a little creative, that would probably be in a direction I would go with one of them.
Yeah. It's just crazy unless something really chaotic happens, kind of like last year, where just, Jackie's War just decides not to show up. I think it'll be slightly formful. I was making comparisons, myself and Chuck Simon were making comparisons of Jackie's Warrior to Devil's Bag back in 1983. If you go back and watch that horse's Champagne, it's crazy similar to Jackie's Warrior's trip in the Champagne too. So that may be something to look at. I mean, Devil's Bag was highly touted and just a spectacular horse before he got hurt. But Jackie's Warrior could be really a beast in this race. But I'm not sure what kind of price you're going to get. I mean, if he's 3 to 5, can you really play him?
Yeah, and especially the race that we're talking about and the way we're talking about this race, it's the 10th. So I mean, if your approach is you like Jackie's Warrior, maybe you're playing the pick 4, pick 5 leading into him, and you're singled, or a situation like that. Maybe you're playing a couple pick 4s where one of them you're singled, and then the other one you can use like you have a likable and maybe another price or two along with Jackie's Warrior. However your approach might be. That's probably, if you're on Jackie's Warrior, that's probably the best way to try to get some money out of him. Or like you said, maybe you're playing him on top with likable, Rombauer, and maybe reinvestment risk underneath, and so try to get some value out of him. So yeah, I mean that's what's nice is there are some ways, and there's that Breeders' Cup pick 5 that has the first 5 races. The first 5 Breeders' Cup races going 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on Friday. So that's what's nice about this weekend, Barry, is you can, it shouldn't be a 7 to 5 ending a pick 5 that had a couple other chalks along the way. Usually on Breeders' Cup Day, if we're going to have one of them, there's usually at least a bomb or some chaos along the way. Yeah,
this year in particular, I would think Jackie's Warrior might be the biggest favorite of the both days.
Yeah.
All the other races are highly, highly competitive. I think it was the mile where I just don't like any of those horses, and it could be a free-for-all. So, there's value there. You just got to kind of, concentrate on getting your bet, your bets together and finding that value to make sure that you strike it and hit it and make them pay when you're right.
Really got to give you a big thank you because you recording this super early with me on Tuesday morning. It's a big help because I'm getting interviews done with everybody for each race. So you made my job super easy. Let the folks out there know, where can we follow you along on social media? I know you're always out there posting on big race days too, giving some of your opinions on horses you played or how things happened before or after the race. And this is a big week, so I'm sure a lot of the folks out there who are fans of yours would love to stay in touch.
Absolutely. I'm at Urban Handicapper. It's URBN Handicapper. And you can catch me on the Going in Circles podcast with Chuck Simon every Monday. Big Monday, baby.
Awesome. Make sure to download and subscribe to that one for Barry. Barry, man, thank you so much. Good luck this weekend. I'll be going back and forth with you. I'll be sending some messages, see how you're doing, and let's do a great job here in the Juvenile.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Let's go get that money.
Oh, yeah. That is Barry Spears, folks. You heard how to follow him along on social media. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with much more on That's What G Said. I just love this show. Mandalorian. Big thanks to Barry for talking BC Juvenile. So I really like the 5 essential quality. I think he's got the opportunity here because I'm just not as high on Jackie's Warrior, who I completely respect. I'm just concerned that there's going to be a little more speed in here. You have horses like Reinvestment Risk, who's going to be stalking, but Likeable is going to be pushing right there. Essential Quality is going to be close. Classier is a real wild card. Dreamer's Disease is not exactly slow. Next is not exactly slow. I think Jackie's Warrior is going to have to work pretty hard. I'm really expecting Calibrate to show a lot more speed too, more like he did in his debut. He's hung way out wide in post 14, so you'd imagine he's going to try to have to send from out there to get closer. I don't think it's going to be quite as easy for Jackie's Warrior, so it's going to be 5 for me all over the place. And then, of course, if you're going to be spreading out and singling in another spot, you're probably going to be using Jackie's Warrior, but I think the 3 reinvestment risk is another one to use. The 4 who Barry and I both likable there, and then the 8 classier, the 9 sitting on go as the other horses who I would include in some of them. It just kind of depends on how you want to include Jackie's Warrior. For me, I prefer Essential Quality. So what that does is if I'm looking at the pick 5 for Breeders' Cup pick 5, there are 3 different horses I'm going to build my tickets around. One of them is in the 7th race, the number 2, New Mandate. The other is in the 8th race, the number 3, Day Out of the Office. And the other's in the 10th race, the number 5, Essential Quality. I think those 3, I will play tickets singling them and then giving me opportunity to spread out in other races and use a couple others there, who you've heard me kind of go through and rank them all so it'd be a spread out race in the 6th, spread out race in the 9th, and then I would, go deeper on some of the other tickets where I don't single a horse. And so those are the 3 for me that I'm building the Breeders' Cup tickets around. 7th race, New Mandate. 8th race, Day Out of the Office. 10th race, Essential Quality. If one of those 3 hits, I'm probably gonna try to set myself up so I should have a lot of opportunity to cash a pick 5 if one of those horses wins. And I'll be looking at their individual prices, in particular New Mandate. Anything around 6 to 1 or so, I'll make a win wager on that one. Good luck on Friday, Breeders' Cup Friday, and don't forget about the Saturday Breeders' Cup show where we've got the same thing going for you. We're going to preview the undercard races real quick, and then every Breeders' Cup Saturday race discussed with a different guest in depth, and we get even a little more. To be honest, the Friday races are juvenile races, which means they're younger horses, which means we just don't have as much of a sample size on them. We don't have as much to discuss about them. They've run less times. We just know them less. Some of these horses in the Saturday races that have been around for a while, we spent quite a bit of time on some of those races going horse by horse. So hope you'll also tune in to the Saturday Breeders' Cup recap show, a Breeders' Cup preview show where we go through everything for you for Saturday. We close things out with a recap. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. We're going to talk about what happened in Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 1. So if you have not seen it, you probably want to turn the pod off now and come back and listen after you have watched. Okay, 1, 2, 3. We're going to start talking about Mandalorian. On Disney Plus just started now with Season 2, Episode 1. We had a long one, too. This was about 55 minutes or so, which is a lot longer than the normal Mandalorian episodes. And I'm not a Star Wars expert. I've watched them all. I love them all. I've watched them all a bunch and rewatch it. I'm always very interested when new Star Wars movies or any kind of Star Wars stuff comes out, but I definitely don't know. I haven't read a ton of books or comics or any kind of thing like that. So a lot of rumors and things I hear are just stuff that I've read from other places, but there were a lot of cool little nuggets, little Easter eggs in this show, a lot of tiebacks to different things from the whole Star Wars universe, and it gives you some of those warm, fuzzy feelings when you're like, oh my gosh, it's, they're on Tatooine here. Is that the pod racer that was Anakin's? Is that just lots of Boba Fett's arm? What is going on? So this episode I really, really enjoyed. It's called the Marshal, and what we see is a return to Tatooine. What's happening is the Mando is trying to find other Mandos who can help him take the child back to the Jedi. And he has found someone who supposedly has some information on where there is a Mandalorian, so he goes to inspect and to try to find out. And of course, the situation that he gets himself into, he's in the seedy bar where there's fighting going on, and of course they see the little baby Yodes and everyone in there, and so everywhere Mando goes, he's going to be drawing a ton of attention. Of course, he has to use some of his fighting skills. He quickly dispatches of them, and he's able to get the information that he wanted and find out that there is a Mandalorian supposedly on Tatooine. Doesn't know much more than that. So, what does this mean? Tatooine, a Mandalorian, we start get on all the Boba Fett ties in. Now you start thinking about the timeline of where Boba Fett is. It should be. Did he die? This. What's happened? How old should he be here? And this is something to keep in the back of your head throughout the episode, because Mando goes to find some help from his friend. Remember the crazy woman who just loves the child and helped Mando babysit the child there? That is Pelimato. And one thing we see too is how the Mando is starting to change, right? Remember, he was still sort of aggressive early on in season 1. We didn't really know what his moral compass was like, and he's becoming more and more of like a father figure to the child, and just more compassionate in general. He doesn't have that disdain for the droids anymore after what he experienced and the help that he got from a droid at the end of season 1. So he asks his friend here, who is also going to help clean up the ship and repair it, to give him some directions to Mos Pelgo. And it's a place that she said it's an old place that was wiped out, and it's not even really located, but it's on a map and with this weird unmarking, and there's something fishy, there's something off. So this is where the Mando is supposed to be, the other Mandalorian that Mando is looking for. So he uses a speeder and he goes to check things out, and he walks into a bar, and then quickly somebody walks in and it looks like it's Boba Fett. I mean, we've got the same armor, everything. And this is actually Vanth, who is played by actor Timothy Olyphant, who does a great job here. This role, it fits him so perfectly. He's sort of like the shady. He's not shady. He's like a Robin Hood kind of character. He's doing what's best for the people. He doesn't mind robbing from the rich to help the poor. And so that's sort of what he's done here. He's come across this armor, and with the armor, he's been able to take care of this town, save them from raiders, and become basically the mayor of this town. And so what Mandalorian finds him, initially he's pissed off because this guy shouldn't have the armor on. And he could tell, we know right away he's not a real Mando because he takes his helmet off instantly. So as they're about to get ready to fight, the whole place shakes, and we see this crazy crate dragon, a creature that has been referenced throughout Star Wars lineage a couple different times, and the CGI and the way this monster looks is probably better than anything we've seen in any Star Wars. It is incredible. The look, the size, the ferocity. Really, really great episode. And so what ends up happening is the two, so Mandalorian and Vanth, they have to come to an agreement. Vanth says, hey, I'll give you this armor if you can help me get rid of this big dragon that's been terrorizing this town, because it's killing people and plucking them off one at a time. So Mando agrees, but he goes to ask for help from the Tusken Raiders, because they know the lay of the land a little bit better, and this small town is going to be no match for that massive crate dragon. So now, like every episode of Mandalorian, there's a big picture going on, right? Overall, he's trying to get the child home safely back to the Jedi. But in every episode, he has this different encounter with the new characters, with some monsters, something big that he has to overcome, and that's what ends up here. Now they have to plan how they're going to kill this dragon, so that way he can get the Mandalorian armor, and then be on his way and try to find where he can get more information about what he has to do to return the kid home safely. And so they hatch this crazy plan. And while they're inspecting it, there's this cool throwback where Vanth is on Anakin Skywalker's old pod racer. I mean, that's a boom instant. Like, oh, wow. And there's some hostility between the Tuscan Raiders and the people of that local town because the Raiders have come in and killed some of the people in the town, but they both will get wiped out if they can't work together and take care of this great dragon. So Vanth is able to convince the people of the town that they all need to work together. Mandalorian's kind of the go-between with a lot of this because he's able to communicate with everybody on all sides. And so Vanth and Mando sort of lead up the plan to try to get rid of this great dragon, and initially it's just not working. They've got a ton of explosives. They're attaching them to banthas to try to lure this thing out and blow them up. They have heard that the stomach is the weakness, but they can't get anything close enough to make any sort of a dent. And Mando lets the dragon swallow him, end a bantha with a bunch of explosives, and from inside, he shocks the dragon, he blows it up, and the poor bantha. And now the dragon's dead, and Mandalorian gets the armor. The Tuscans and the townspeople are able to coexist here, and this is a cool throwback to Boba Fett and the jetpack, what happened with him with the Sarlacc pit, and there's just so many cool things to tie back and forth. And like I said, I'm not even one who notices a billion of the little things. I'm only noticing small things here and there. So Mando is on his way. He's got the armor now. And the thing that happens at the end is there's lots of rumors flying around, but it does look like we are going to see Boba Fett. Because Mando is heading back to Mos Eisley, and we see a figure that's got some weapons on his back watching, and it's the man who played Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones and Commander Cody in Revenge of the Sith. And there's a big thought that this is Boba Fett. So really exciting on where we're going next. This is, to me, one of the few still week-to-week shows that I'm actually out there watching. Stephanie and I are really excited every time this one comes on. We watch it instantly. We stay up late a lot of the time. And now with this whole, is this Boba Fett? Are we going to see Boba Fett next week? Are we going to just get an episode that's got nothing at all going on related to what we just saw? I don't think so. I think we're going to start to pick it up. No slow start with this episode. A lot of action. Visually, it was great. And I love the interactions with the Mando and the quote-unquote fake Mando. I love this show. The Mandalorian. That was Season 2, Episode 1. We will talk each and every episode of The Mandalorian here on That's What G Said. And that is going to do it for us on this episode. A big thank you to all the sponsors of That's What G Said. A big thank you to all the guests who joined us, specifically Bree Mott, Brian Arrigoni, Sean Alvarez, Ryan Dickey, Andy Villanueva, Barry Spears. We will have even more for you for Breeders' Cup Saturday. That might have to be broken into 2 different shows. I'll just see how long it is. It may not even be long enough to get onto one, but I'll continue to post all the time codes and everything. Make sure to pay attention so that way you can skip around. If you want to go to race, download, subscribe, rate, review, share the show with your friends. Our numbers have been great as of late. We've been really, really breaking records the last few weeks. So thank you to everyone for listening. Joey, take it away.